In the dark forest, Ren, a seemingly fragile boy, stands alone facing a pack of giant, ferocious wolves. His eyes are cast down, his body is covered in blood, and one hand is clenched tightly until it turns red. In the distance, a girl has witnessed everything, her eyes filled with fear and doubt. In a life-or-death moment, Ren's monologue echoes, "I have a secret that can change everything." As the pack of wolves charges, Ren's eyes blaze with intensity, and his hand draws a mysterious energy swirl in the air. Blood stains his face, but he shows no fear. Instead, he's filled with determination. That's a secret that I can't tell anyone. Behind Ren, a girl has also entered the battle. Clearly, she knows something about Ren's true strength. And in that moment, the secret that Ren has been hiding begins to awaken. After the fierce battle, the scene shifts to a peaceful atmosphere. Ren sits against a tree trunk, gazing out at the distant fields and village. He smiles faintly, feeling the gentle breeze rustle his hair, and his eyes sparkle with the bright blue sky. So peaceful, Ren thinks to himself. He stretches and lies down against the tree, relaxing in a rare moment free from worry. But this peace is likely only temporary, like the calm before a larger storm. Ren lies relaxed under the shade of a tree, his mind calm in the stillness of the afternoon. But suddenly, something catches his attention. His eyes widen, and his expression changes from indifference to surprise. He raises his head, his gaze fixed on something outside the frame, an anomaly in this otherwise serene scene. The boy Ren begins to recall his past life, as a grown man, living a monotonous loop in the city. He was once an office worker, bowing to his superiors, crowded on the subway, eating discounted boxed lunches with fatigue. Every day was the same, waking up, working, exhaustion, and then falling asleep on the train. This memory, like a forgotten part, now floods back, hinting that he may not be an ordinary boy. Perhaps this is the secret Ren has been hiding. Ren lies resting under the tree, feeling a peace that's far removed from his previous stressful life, where he was a melancholic office worker, living a dull life on the train and at the office. Compared to his past, his current life feels like a dream. As he becomes lost in thought, a voice calls out his name, shattering the quiet moment. A lively boy appears, enthusiastically inviting Ren to Chano's house to play. However, Ren declines, citing household chores, when in reality, he just wants to relax for a day. His friend quickly notices the lie and teases Ren, making him embarrassed and react with irritation. The atmosphere between the two is both familiar and humorous. Ren's energetic friend drags him to his house to ask permission to take Ren out to play. Ren's mother is initially skeptical and unhappy, but eventually relents with a forced smile. Ren is dragged along, resigned, hoping to have a day to rest, while his friend excitedly tells everyone that he successfully brought Ren along. As soon as they arrive, Ren is suddenly enveloped in a tight hug by Tetra, her face beaming with joy, as she calls out his name with excitement. Caught off guard, Ren can only exclaim Tetra's name in surprise. The accompanying friend smiles nonchalantly, as if accustomed to this scene. Ren is completely buried in Tetra's round arms, helplessly enduring the hug, while his friend looks on with a resigned expression, as if this is just another everyday occurrence. Tetra is overjoyed to the point of having a runny nose when she sees Ren again, laughing and shouting, "Ree!" because she's so cute, making Ren, despite being flustered, forgive her for the suffocating hug earlier. As Tetra continues to hug tightly, Ren gently suggests she return to her brother, while his friend teases Ren that he's still Tetra's favorite. Ren is frozen in place, as Tetra hugs him tightly, feeling a warmth in his heart when she asks, "Are you an angel?" leaving him momentarily speechless. Another girl teases Tetra about her runny nose, prompting Tetra to react irritably. Chano steps out, arms crossed, and smiles smugly as he sees everyone gathered. Ren arrives late and is scolded by a little girl, and he can only smile awkwardly and carry Tetra. Chano's house, often referred to as the children's room, is a gathering place for the village kids, those too young to do chores, much like a village daycare. Ren introduces his group of friends at Chano's house, a gathering place for the village kids. Each person has a distinct personality, just like their appearance. Anne is silly and cheerful, Ted is lively, Chano's tries to appear cool, Kenya is serious like a class leader, Turner seems always distracted, and Tetra looks like an angel but is actually quite formidable. As for himself, his real name is Relight, but everyone calls him Ren. Ren reveals his biggest secret. Despite currently being in the body of a child, he's actually a middle-aged man reborn. With a helpless and bitter expression, he admits to being an adult still living in a childhood room, surrounded by innocent children who know nothing. Ren continues to reveal his true identity, a middle-aged man reborn into a different world in the form of a child. Despite outwardly blending in and playing with the other kids, inside, he's still a man in his 30s, carrying memories of his past life and living among children as a cruel joke that only he understands. Ren tries to maintain his childlike facade to hide the truth about his identity. When his friends ask about his serious expression, Ren immediately changes his face and plays along as a child his age, joining in the fun with an innocent look. Internally, Ren reminds himself to act like a 5-year-old, continuing his acting life among the children to avoid raising suspicion. Turner gently tugged on Ren's shirt and asked him to tell a story as he usually did, which made Ren smile and affectionately call out to the little girl in his mind. Meanwhile, other kids like Anne, Charnos, and Ted excitedly called out to each other to play an adventure game, carrying toys like wooden swords. Ren looked at the group and quietly sighed to himself, resigned to continuing to blend in and play the role of a child in his new life as part of his daily routine. In the village's children's house, the kids were divided into 2 groups, those who played outside and those who stayed indoors. Ren, having to take care of Tetra, was stuck inside with a reluctant role of babysitter. He wasn't sure when he was assigned this task, but he had grown accustomed to it. Still, he couldn't relax, as Kenya suddenly asked Ren to teach her math. In response, Ren just smiled helplessly and hugged Tetra out of habit, continuing to play the role of an adult in a child's body. Turner still didn't give up on asking Ren to tell a story, this time quietly tugging on his shirt with a hopeful expression. But Ren immediately refused, citing that his clothes were being pulled askew by her. Despite this, Turner still didn't let go, pulling his shirt to the limit while Kenya nearby tried to call her back. Ren could only force a smile, helpless in his situation as a reluctant babysitter. Ren was helpless against Turner's stubbornness, as she insisted on clinging to his shirt to demand a story. Meanwhile, Tetra happily sat on the stretched shirt, making it look like a hammock. Ren was both annoyed and worried, while Turner maintained a calm expression, refusing to let go. Things gradually became chaotic as Tetra climbed up and swung precariously, prompting Ren to warn her to be careful. Ren reluctantly told a Japanese fairy tale that he vaguely remembered, about saving a turtle and then riding it to the underwater palace. While the other kids played noisily outside, Tetra sat contentedly in Ren's lap, and Kenya listened intently with sparkling eyes. In contrast, Turner, who had initially demanded to hear the story, fell asleep midway, causing Ren to sigh helplessly. After finishing the storytelling session, Ren sat with tattered clothes, soothing Tetra to sleep while sighing and asking someone to help repair his shirt. Kenya happily praised the story, saying it was interesting, which made Ren involuntarily think that she was really cute and well-behaved. Seeing that both Tetra and Turner were fast asleep, Ren decided to wrap up the day. But Kenya suddenly suggested enthusiastically, "Next is math," making Ren's eyes widen in despair. As the day drew to a close, Ren dragged his tired feet out of the children's house after a long day of being busy. He breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that he was finally free. However, when he looked up at the sky, Ren realized that the day had passed in the blink of an eye. Just as he was starting to relax, he suddenly felt that something was off, and his eyes began to show caution. On his way back, Ren happened to see a girl scooping water from a well, seemingly struggling to carry a heavy bucket. As she lifted it, she accidentally slipped on something on the ground and nearly fell. Ren watched from afar, sighing inwardly as he saw her narrowly escape danger, thinking that the situation was quite hazardous. When he saw the girl about to fall due to losing her balance, Ren immediately rushed over and caught her just in time, saving her from a painful fall. The girl was taken aback, calling out Ren's name, while Ren calmly asked if she was okay. Sitting down beside her, the girl thanked Ren gratefully for saving her, and Ren just smiled lightly, saying that he had coincidentally been passing by and was lucky to be there on time. The girl awkwardly explained that she hadn't noticed Ren nearby, even though he was right there. As the atmosphere became strangely silent, Ren suddenly asked a question that made her flustered. "Why aren't you wearing a shirt?" She was taken aback, hastily changing the subject and quickly standing up, saying that she needed to fetch more water to avoid answering. The girl panicked, thinking that the bucket of water had spilled, but upon looking back, the water was still intact. Ren sat down, nonchalantly explaining that he had used a special trick to save the situation. In a humorous, imaginative scenario, Ren described how he had moved extremely quickly and caught the water with his own body, resulting in him getting soaked, but the bucket remaining safe. He ended the story with an innocent expression, proudly saying that everything was fine. The girl was extremely surprised and delighted by Ren's heroic actions, praising him innocently and enthusiastically. Although slightly flustered, Ren smiled in response. She also reminded him to take care of himself and not catch a cold due to his wet clothes, before leaving with the full bucket of water. Ren watched her go, feeling a warmth in his heart, and ended the adventurous afternoon with a sigh of relief. After leaving the group of children, Ren reflected on his unconscious use of his special ability. Although he had been careful not to let anyone see, he still felt anxious and blamed himself for being careless. His eyes quietly looked at the object that had fallen to the ground, his heart filled with caution. He clenched his fist, reminding himself to always keep this secret hidden to avoid disrupting his peaceful life. Ren quietly used his ability to rotate his shoes and put them on in a supernatural manner. While observing his own hands, he reaffirmed his determination to keep his special ability a secret from the villagers. Although the action was simple, Ren understood that if discovered, his true identity, a middle-aged man reborn, could be exposed. Ren discovered a large crack and scorch marks on the ground, as if something had crashed down from the sky with tremendous force. He stopped in his tracks, silently observing the scene for a moment before continuing to walk in the darkness, his heart filled with suspicion and caution. This unusual event seemed out of the ordinary, making Ren even more doubtful about the artificial peace of the village. On his way home after a long day, Ren reminded himself to be more careful when using his special abilities. He accidentally met his father, who was working in the fields. His father asked him questions, surprised to see him half naked. Ren replied curtly with a yeah, trying to appear calm, but when his father reached out to examine him more closely, Ren involuntarily took a step back, alert. The fear of being discovered had never left his mind. On the way back, Ren was held by the hand by his father. Although he, a grown man, felt somewhat embarrassed by this intimate gesture, Ren understood that it was completely normal for a 5-year-old child. He suppressed his awkward feelings, held his father's hand, and quietly looked up at the sky, where emotions and memories silently drifted by like summer clouds. On the way home, Ren's father suddenly lifted him onto his shoulders like a real child. A mix of embarrassment and confusion filled Ren's heart, a grown man living in a child's body. When asked if he was being bullied, Ren could only shake his head in denial. He thought to himself, "Father, I'm probably older than you." But outwardly, he endured this piggyback ride like a child of his age, with a mature mind hidden inside. Ren stood gazing at the peaceful evening sky, his heart filled with satisfaction. He truly loved this quiet rural life, where the people were kind, and each day passed gently with warm meals, loving scoldings, and the laughter of children. In his heart, Ren secretly hoped that this life could last forever, undisturbed by anything. At night, Ren lay between his parents in their warm embrace, but his eyes remained wide open, full of vigilance. He vowed to keep his secret hidden at all costs. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, a creature with glowing eyes and a beast-like body moved stealthily, as if signaling that troubles were approaching, disrupting the peace that Ren longed to preserve. Under the cold light of the full moon, the eerie howl of a wolf echoed from the mountaintop, like a harbinger of impending danger. Meanwhile, Ren slept soundly between his parents, innocently sprawling across the blanket, causing his mother to lie awake. Two worlds, one of peace and warmth, the other of lurking danger, existed in parallel, waiting to collide. The story takes a new turn with a serene forest landscape. A group of people are gathering herbs and mushrooms, preparing to leave the area after a successful harvest. They behave cautiously and are well organized, indicating that this is a daily and important activity for their livelihood. A large bag full of mushrooms is tied up, signaling the end of an efficient day's work in the forest. The atmosphere seems peaceful, but something is looming on the horizon. As the group is about to leave the forest after their gathering, a young boy suddenly stops and stares deep into the woods. His alert gaze catches the adults' attention, and they ask if something is wrong. However, he replies, "Nothing's wrong," but his expression reveals a sense of unease. The atmosphere is shifting from peaceful to tense, as if something unusual is hiding in the quiet forest. Just as the group is about to leave the forest, a giant wolf suddenly emerges from the bushes, growling menacingly. The terrifying sound causes the forest birds to fly away in all directions. Two young boys are caught off guard, panic-stricken and unable to react. The sudden danger shatters the previously peaceful atmosphere. A fierce attack is about to unfold. Ren is sitting alone under a tree, quietly gazing at the clear blue sky and watching the birds fly. Suddenly, he is startled when someone calls his name from afar. In a flash, Ren becomes flustered and hides behind the tree trunk. His worried expression suggests that he is hiding something and doesn't want to be discovered. The peaceful atmosphere is on the verge of being disrupted. Ren is being chased by Ted and forced to flee. In his panic, he hides behind a tree and observes the situation. Ted calls out his name loudly, determined to find him. Ren thinks to himself that he's playing a game of hide-and-seek, but in reality, he's trying to escape Ted's pursuit. The young boy tries to remain silent to avoid being detected. The tense atmosphere is mixed with a hint of excitement and the playfulness of a children's game. Ren is hiding behind a tree when he suddenly sees a group of village children arrive. He mutters to himself, "Children are so strange," as he watches the group gather. A group of kids, led by Ted, decides to split up to search for him. Ren's involuntary chase has turned into a lively game of hide-and-seek, where the first one to find him wins. The atmosphere becomes more energetic, while Ren is caught between laughter and tears, being pulled into the game. Ren is hiding behind a tree, worried that he'll be discovered by the children sooner or later. He knows that if he's caught, he'll be dragged to Mr. Chano's hut, a place called a fun-gathering spot, but is actually just an old man. Ren fears this scenario, and is determined not to be caught. While the other kids see it as a fun game, Ren views it as a nightmare. He breaks into a sweat, clenches his fists, and tells himself to find a way to escape before it's too late. Ren quickly runs towards the edge of the village, surrounded by a wooden fence. He examines the wall's structure, large logs driven deep into the ground. Although it's a simple structure, it's enough to protect the small village from external threats. Ren seems to be calculating something, his gaze directed upwards, as if searching for a way to escape or hide. Ren stands still, looking at the tall wooden wall surrounding the village. The wall is not only to keep out wild animals, but also to prevent children from entering the deep forest. Outside the wall, the dense forest stretches out, with no houses nearby. However, there's one exception, the person he's thinking of. Ren's gaze is contemplative, as if he's preparing for a daring decision related to the isolated area. Ren remembers Old Man Double, the only person living near the village wall, separate from the villagers. He's chopping wood in front of his log cabin, his expression serious, exuding calmness and experience. The decisive swing of his axe seems to signal that something more serious is approaching. Old Man Double is not just a charcoal burner in the village, he's also considered a trustworthy, wise man. Although he lives apart, he's the only one in a special category among the villagers. What makes him special isn't his job, but the unusual abilities he possesses, something not yet revealed, but clearly commanding respect and caution. In this world, magic exists, but becoming a wizard is extremely challenging. Although few people can master magic, Old Man Double is a rare exception. In this village, he's the only one who has achieved that level, making him not just a charcoal burner, but a true wizard, a rare figure in everyday life. The path to becoming a wizard is arduous, divided into several stages. First, innate talent, with only 1 in 10 people possessing it. Next, the speed of absorption, with only 1 in 10 talented individuals able to learn quickly. Finally, the level of skill, where only 1 in 10 quick learners can achieve true ability. That means only 1 in 1,000 people can become a wizard, like Old Man Double, who has rarely achieved this level. Magic in this world is divided into basic attributes: water, fire, earth, and wind. There are also special forms of magic, such as magical gemstones, and many other types not yet listed. Old Man Double, who can grasp and use these elements flexibly, is a rare example of exceptional ability, but there's still more to his story. Old Man Double is a rare fire mage, one of the few people in 1,000 who can use magic. Although he lives a secluded life in a remote village, he's respected as a wise sage due to his knowledge and superior abilities. When a knock at the door is heard, his expression becomes serious, signaling that something is about to happen. Ren hesitantly appears at Old Man Double's doorstep and greets him. When he catches the aroma wafting from inside, his growling stomach causes him to inadvertently praise the food. Old Man Double, although serious, is perceptive, looks at Ren for a moment before inviting him in to eat. A small turning point is unfolding between the two. Ren couldn't resist the invitation to eat, especially when the aroma of the stew was so enticing. He wondered if his feelings were visible on his face. As he savored the food, Ren recalled that many children were afraid of Old Man Double because of his stern appearance, especially little Anne. However, despite being curt and taciturn, Old Man Double was actually a kind person. Ren came here not only because he was hungry, but also to avoid being dragged into playing with his friends, and he felt that this was the right decision. Ren was completely surprised by the unusual vegetables cooked by Old Man Double. The flavor was so delicious that he couldn't stop praising it. Although he wasn't averse to vegetables in his previous life, the vegetables in this world had a uniquely delicious taste. He even thought, "This must be magic." Ren ate happily, while Old Man Double watched silently, his hand clenched as if moved by the praise. As Ren was enjoying his meal, Turner suddenly appeared from behind, startling him and almost making him drop his bowl. Turner said he had found Ren, and Ren exclaimed in surprise, "Turner!" Although he had been discovered, Ren remained calm and sat back down, facing his friend. He knew he couldn't hide forever. Ren was surprised to see that Turner wasn't afraid of Old Man Double like the other children. He was even more shocked when Turner approached him with a wooden stick in hand, his face expressionless. Ren thought he was about to be hit and broke out in a cold sweat. However, Turner simply handed the stick to Ren and said he would give it to him. Despite Ren's repeated refusals, Turner insisted on giving it to him. Although they were playing hide-and-seek, Ren and Turner ended up sitting down to eat with Old Man Double. Turner completely forgot about the game, focusing solely on the delicious food. Ren was puzzled, but couldn't help laughing as he watched Turner devour his fourth bowl. Old Man Double, despite his stern demeanor, smiled when Turner asked for more. The three of them were enveloped in a peaceful and joyful atmosphere. Although the pot of soup was empty, Turner still wasn't full, making Ren think that even Old Man Double must be shocked, although his stern face didn't reveal much emotion. As the three of them rested, a chubby person suddenly ran towards them from a distance, catching Old Man Double's attention. Both Ren and Turner became cautious in response to this unexpected situation. A plump man ran towards them in a panic, gasping for breath as he tried to say something. Ren and Turner watched with curiosity, while Old Man Double immediately stood up, his eyes serious and ready for action. The atmosphere became tense, signaling that something unusual was about to happen. Old Man Double sternly ordered the children to return home immediately, a rare action from him. Ren and Turner sensed the gravity of the situation and responded in unison. As they turned to leave, Ren couldn't help but wonder, has something happened in the village? His eyes were contemplative, sensing that the peaceful days were about to be disrupted. Ren and the other children in the village were gathered at a place called the Chano's house. He was surprised to be brought here. The atmosphere was bustling as all the children in the village congregated. Ren noticed many unfamiliar faces and thought that the age gap made it difficult for the children to interact with each other. Nevertheless, it seemed that something serious was happening, prompting the village to gather all the children in one place. Ren was discovered by his friends, who asked him where he had been hiding, but he kept it a secret. As the children chatted and joked, they began to speculate about the adults' emergency meeting. Ren suspected that it was related to the previous incident. Meanwhile, the children were temporarily isolated in the house, as if to keep them safe or prevent them from coming into contact with something serious happening outside. The atmosphere was both curious and tense. As the children waited in the house, Ren suggested to Turner that they come up with a plan. When asked for his opinion, Turner simply complained about being hungry, a response typical of him. Ren decided to sneak out and eavesdrop on the adults' conversation to gather information. However, before he could do so, another girl, who seemed very serious, rushed over and stopped him, emphasizing that they were told to stay put. The atmosphere became more agitated, but also revealed divisions in how to face this mysterious situation. A girl became angry when the two boys decided to sneak out and listen to the adults' meeting, defying the orders to stay put. The two boys still went ahead, despite her protests, leaving the other children in a state of confusion, especially Kenya, who was dragged along. Ren watched from afar, feeling curious but also sorry for Kenya. The atmosphere became increasingly chaotic as the children began to lose control and act on their own. The children gathered in the wooden house, worried by the news that wolf monsters had appeared in the forest, not just one, but multiple creatures. The atmosphere became tense as many children, who had never heard of such monsters outside of fairy tales, began to panic. Ren and Turner sat together, comforting a little girl, while the children around them whispered to each other, wondering if the rumors were true. What was once a game of hide-and-seek had turned into real anxiety. As the group of children were still reeling from the news about the monsters, Chano suddenly stepped forward, declaring sternly, "We will defeat them." His statement left everyone stunned. Ren and the other children were completely baffled by Chano's words. The atmosphere was both tense and bewildered, as everyone wondered if he was joking or if he actually had a bold plan. Chano's continued to deliver a passionate speech, arguing that the adults were too slow in hiring adventurers from the town. He called on the children to take proactive action before they were attacked. However, not everyone agreed. Anne and Ted looked disinterested, and many other children were either bewildered or hesitant. Nevertheless, Chano's tried to rally Enoch and Massey, who had experience with hunting. Emotions within the group began to divide. Despite Chano's enthusiastic call to action, most of the children remained skeptical about the feasibility of his plan. Ren and many others believed that if the adults had to hold an emergency meeting, the danger was certainly not as simple as a rabbit or a bird. The two older boys were also unconvinced by Chano's plan. Meanwhile, Anne firmly opposed it, making Chanos feel disappointed. The atmosphere within the group became increasingly tense and divided. Chanos' reckless plan completely shattered Anne. She burst into tears and loudly protested, repeatedly saying no in an emotional outburst. Although Chanos tried to maintain a calm demeanor, his hurt was evident as he saw Anne in distress. The atmosphere among the children became somber, highlighting the helplessness and disagreement in this perilous situation. Faced with the danger, Ren realized this was not a matter to be taken lightly. He empathized with Kenya's fear. However, the children quickly reassured each other that Old Man Double, the one with magical abilities, was still there. They trusted that if anything happened, Old Man Double would step in to resolve the issue with his power, giving them some peace of mind. After the group put their trust in Old Man Double and began to calm down, Ren still looked contemplative. He quietly observed Chanos, the one who always seemed strong and advocated for action. In Ren's mind, doubts began to arise. Did Chanos truly understand the gravity of the situation, or was he just being impulsive and boastful? A boy with a serious gaze, wearing a cloak and holding a wooden sword, stands firmly on the dirt path. His posture is full of determination and vigilance, signaling a transition from a peaceful life to a journey of training or facing imminent danger. No longer an innocent child, he has begun to take on the demeanor of a protector. The group of children in the village gather together with worried and uncertain expressions as they face a new task. A boy named Chanos, seemingly the leader, holds a wooden sword, maintaining a calm demeanor but sighing in exasperation when his companions ask, "Do we really have to do this alone?" The atmosphere is both thrilling and doubtful, indicating that the upcoming journey will not be simple, but also presents an opportunity for the group to mature through challenges. Chanos performs decisive and determined sword movements in front of the group, demonstrating his seriousness and exceptional ability. While his friends are still hesitant, he declares confidently, "We are the only ones who can protect this village." Chanos' eyes exude a tough aura, causing the group to fall silent and begin to accept the significant role that is about to be placed upon them. When Chanos poses the challenging question, "Are you scared?" a boy in the group immediately responds with enthusiasm and determination. He shouts loudly, strains himself, and swings his sword with great spirit, creating a series of serious, yet somewhat humorous fighting movements. Despite the sweat on his forehead, he smiles confidently, saying, "Who's scared?" showing courage mixed with a touch of naivety, while also boosting the group's morale in the face of the upcoming challenge. Chanos calls out to Enoch and Massey, instilling trust in them before taking action. Although the girl in the group is still worried and lacks confidence, the two boys, Enoch and Massey, react with determination, one wielding a stick bravely, the other drawing his bow professionally. When both shout in unison, "Let's go!" the spirit of camaraderie spreads strongly, signaling that the group of children is ready to face the challenge ahead with all their courage and unity. In a quiet pharmacy, a girl is intently writing notes behind the counter, displaying a serious and focused demeanor. Suddenly, the doorbell rings, signaling the arrival of someone. She looks up, recognizes the visitor as Ren, the mysterious boy from the village, and greets him softly. Ren's appearance brings a sense of calm, but also hints at unspoken matters. Ren enters the pharmacy and inquires about Chanos, the boy known as the young master. The girl behind the counter replies that he has gone out to play with Ted. When she asks about Ren's condition with concern, Ren reassures her that he's fine, while also recalling that Enoch and Massey had visited earlier. The brief but warm conversation reveals the close and caring relationships between the characters in the peaceful village setting. Ren leaves the pharmacy with a feeling of unease and immediately realizes that his concern has become a reality. The group of friends has secretly climbed over the wall into the forest. Knowing that the village gate is guarded, he deduces that they must have gone over the wall. He rushes off, worried about the safety of his reckless friends who are venturing into the mysterious forest. Ren runs along the village wall, hoping to catch up with the group before they leave the safe area. He blames himself for not taking action sooner, especially since he had sensed something unusual from Ted's absence. With a heart full of anxiety, Ren silently prays that they haven't left the village yet. Ren reaches the village wall and encounters Anne standing there. He gasps for breath, panicked, and calls out her name. When he sees that Anne isn't with the group, Ren immediately grabs her shoulders, anxiously asking about Chanos' whereabouts and the others. Ren's expression shows that he's fearing the worst. Ren urgently begs Anne to reveal the truth about what happened to Chanos' group. Although Anne denies it, her tense and worried face makes Ren believe that she's hiding something. He insists that if something bad has happened, Anne will also be in trouble, forcing her to face the truth she's been avoiding. Anne finally reveals the truth, pointing out to Ren where the group had climbed over the wall to leave the village. She indicates a lower section of the wall and the wooden crate they used to climb up. Seeing the height, Ren realizes that even children can overcome it if they try. His anxiety grows as he confirms that his intuition was correct. Ren thanks Anne for revealing the truth and then tells her to go inform the adults immediately. When Anne hesitates, worrying about him, Ren asserts that he'll chase after Charnos and the others. Determination is evident on his face as he rushes toward the wall to cross over, while Anne watches with anxiety. Anne offers to help Ren push the wooden crate to climb over the wall, but Ren immediately refuses, insisting that she go report to the adults. Surprised and moved by Ren's determination, Anne listens and runs off. Meanwhile, Ren faces the high wall alone, his eyes fixed resolutely ahead, preparing to enter the dangerous forest. Ren takes a deep breath, gains momentum, and begins his determined climb over the wall. He musters all his strength for the jump, launching himself up the high wall, demonstrating his resolve not to let his friends face danger. With a resolute gaze, he seems to be crossing beyond the boundaries of childhood to become a true protector. Ren bravely leaps over the village wall, his small figure soaring through the air amidst the vast forest landscape. He decides not to wait for the adults, but to venture out on his own, entering the mysterious forest to track down his friends, a moment that marks a significant step toward maturity under the vast sky. Ren lands after his daring jump over the wall, stumbling to the ground, but quickly getting up. While Anne watches with concern, Ren quickly disappears into the forest, glancing back to see if anyone has noticed his reckless action. Though young, Ren's determination to protect his friends drives him to take risks without hesitation. Ren worries about being discovered by the guards, but he quickly dismisses his doubts and focuses on the footprints still visible on the ground. He discovers the direction the group had taken and without hesitation rushes into the depths of the forest, determined to catch up with the troublemakers and protect them at all costs. Charnos' group was groping in the dense forest, trying to follow the trail but making no progress. One member complained about the difficulty in finding their target, causing the group to become somber. However, they didn't lose heart, and each person's eyes showed determination to continue the search. A terrified scream made Charnos' group turn around in shock. One member had tripped over a lifeless animal carcass, its body gruesomely torn apart. Silence fell over the group as they approached. The boy with messy hair looked down, confirming this was caused by a monster. The real danger had been revealed, and the atmosphere began to tense up. After discovering the carcass attacked by the monster, the group fell into a state of panic. A few members began to lose morale, suggesting they turn back. Although Charnos tried to appear strong and persuade the group not to be afraid, he couldn't hide his horror at witnessing the scene. Tension and fear spread, causing their initial courage to begin to waver. Drawn by a strange noise, Charnos and his friends stopped, anxiously searching their surroundings. The sound from the bushes grew louder, making them even more panicked. Charnos tried to remain calm, but couldn't avoid feeling a sense of unease as he realized something was off. Their worries began to rise, unsure of what lay ahead. Charnos suddenly collapsed from exhaustion, but his friends didn't abandon him. While fleeing, one of them quickly supported Charnos, struggling to carry him while continuing to run. The shout, "Heave-ho!" echoed as the friends worked together to combat the dire situation. Although anxiety surged, they didn't stop moving, running at full speed to escape the approaching threat. As the group continued to flee, they suddenly realized a dark figure was chasing them. Fear enveloped them when one of them screamed, alerting everyone that something is chasing us. The other members panicked, running faster, urging each other to speed up, but as they ran, bright eyes gleamed in the darkness, making everyone even more panicked and fearful. Ren sprinted deep into the vast forest, determined to find Charnos and his friends. He thought to himself that he had to increase his speed to avoid being left behind. With a resolute gaze, Ren boosted his energy, trying to run faster to overcome all challenges. Ren was determined to find Charnos and his friends as quickly as possible. He accelerated his run, no longer stopping, focusing all his mind and energy on overcoming every obstacle to find his friends in the deep forest. Ren was confident in his abilities. He sped up in the dense forest. While running, he quickly noticed the creatures around him, like a bird on a branch and a small bear, but didn't let these distractions slow him down. He was determined to use all his strength to find his friends. Ren continued to accelerate in the forest, his feet pounding the ground, creating a crack sound as the earth and rocks beneath his feet crumbled. However, while running at high speed, he suddenly encountered an obstacle, causing him to stumble and use his hands to steady himself against the ground. Ren stopped, his eyes fixed intently on a point in the distance within the forest. Before him, a small figure appeared, walking through the forest. It was a child wielding a stick. Ren couldn't tear his eyes away, his gaze filled with concern as he sensed something unusual was happening. Ren suddenly discovered Turner standing face to face with a pack of dangerous wolves. He quickly realized the critical situation and called out Turner's name, worried for his friend's safety. Turner, despite being in danger, remained calm, preparing to fight the fierce wolves advancing towards him. Ren activated his ability to run extremely fast to find them. He rushed through the forest at an incredible speed and finally found a member of the group, Turner, surrounded by a pack of wolves. He immediately shouted out her name. Although frightened, Turner got into a fighting stance with a large log, ready to face the ferocious beasts. When a wolf charged at Turner from behind, the boy could only turn his head back in horror. His friend, realizing it was too far to intervene in time, silently blamed himself for calling out Turner's name, causing her to lose her vigilance. In that moment of danger, everyone was tense, and Turner was still unaware of the impending threat behind her. The boy sat calmly under a tree, focusing on practicing his skills. A mosquito flew in, and in an instant he swatted it with his hand. This was not just a normal reflex. It was the result of magic that enhanced his senses, improving his reaction and dynamic vision. The scene revealed thorough preparation for something bigger that was coming. The boy began experimenting with physical enhancement magic by using his strength to lift a heavy rock. As he observed the result, he thought about the potential of this type of magic. With a serious expression, he told himself that he needed to test how far he could push his limits in using enhancement magic. The boy stretched out his hand in despair as he saw his friend Turner being attacked by a wolf, his heart filled with anxiety due to the distance between them. But at that moment, he felt the magic within him was still active. Relieved, he clutched his chest, silently thanking that the magic was still working, a slim chance to save his friend. The boy was taken aback as he clearly felt the surge of power rising from within. His heart pounding, he placed his hand on his chest, his eyes lighting up with excitement, exclaiming that this power was too great, to the point of being like cheating. A feeling of being overwhelmed, but also exhilarated, spread throughout his body. As the monstrous beast charged forward with a ferocious look, the boy was not intimidated, using the newly awakened power to deliver a fatal blow. In that suspended moment, the strike shattered the space, causing the monster to break into pieces. He knelt down, breathing heavily in the darkness, feeling the terrifying aftermath of the power that had just been unleashed. In a life-or-death moment, the boy rushed forward like a gust of wind, his eyes shining with determination. His arms swung strongly, preparing to deliver a fatal punch to the back of the giant wolf that was charging towards Turner with its mouth wide open. The tension escalated, with just a few moments left to decide their fate. Turner, after a life-or-death battle with the wolves, sat dazed in the forest with a broken stick covered in blood. She closed her eyes, trying to suppress her fear, but when she opened them again, a strange, dark figure silently reached out towards her from behind. A new threat was emerging stealthily. Ren landed right in front of Turner, a defeated wolf lying motionless beside them. Both of them were breathing heavily in the tense atmosphere that lingered after the battle. Turner trembled as she called out his name, her eyes seemingly unable to believe that her companion had appeared just in time to save her life. Ren breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Turner was still safe, her face dirty but her eyes full of gentleness. He reassured the little girl that everything was okay, while realizing the cost of his enhanced strength. The magic had consumed too much energy. Despite being exhausted, Ren still tried to keep his spirits up to protect his friend. Although exhausted, Ren turned back to face the remaining pack of wolves with a determined gaze. He clenched his fist, summoning magical power in the palm of his hand, vowing to end the ordeal quickly. The pack growled angrily, but Ren was undaunted, wondering to himself if he was ready to kill just because his friend was injured. Ren summoned magical energy in the palm of his hand, his eyes fixed with determination and resolve. He had no intention of prolonging the battle, the pack growled menacingly. But Ren was ready to deliver the finishing blow, driven by his determination to end the danger as quickly as possible. Turner clutched a log tightly as the wind swirled when Ren launched an attack. From his hand, a tremendous force burst forth, blowing two wolves backward in an instant. The tense atmosphere was instantly shattered by the pressure of the powerful magic. Ren swung his arm, unleashing a massive swirling energy that created a maelstrom of magical power that swept away the entire pack of wolves. The overwhelming force left the enemy unable to react, their bodies sucked into the vortex and thrown far away. Bathed in the brilliant magical light, Ren stood firm like a newly awakened war god. The whirlwind created by Ren continued to sweep across the battlefield, sweeping away everything in its path. The giant pack of wolves was sucked into the heart of the vortex, spinning wildly in chaos and helplessly screaming. The power of the attack not only terrified the enemy, but also left a deep impression on the battlefield. The massive whirlwind created by Ren erupted violently, lifting trees, rocks, and wolf carcasses into the air. The terrifying power of the attack caused the surrounding space to shake, highlighting the vast difference between humans and monsters in this battle. This was the first time Ren had used true wind magic, and he was surprised that the power had exceeded his control. Standing in the midst of the giant whirlwind he had created, the boy felt both dizzy and frightened by the terrible consequences of his magic. The whirlwind had swept away everything, leaving a desolate landscape, and in the eye of the storm, only Ren and Turner stood frozen in the terrifying scene. As the whirlwind dissipated, blood from the pack of beasts fell like red rain, covering the entire forest. Ren and Turner stood silently under the blood rain, their eyes heavy with unspoken emotions. Although the battle was over, they didn't feel relieved. Turner quietly grasped Ren's hand, and he whispered, "We should leave here immediately." Their first battle, though victorious, left a chilling aftermath in both their hearts. Leaving the battlefield, Turner was still shaken, traumatized by the terrifying power Ren had just unleashed. He kept questioning and blaming himself, speaking incoherently as if trying to reassure himself. Ren silently took Turner's hand, leading him through the silent forest. Although no one outside had noticed what happened, the storm inside both of them had not subsided. After the battle ended, Turner was still unable to calm down. He frantically asked repeated questions about the terrifying power Ren had just used. Ren was lost in a jumble of chaotic thoughts, continuously questioning and denying himself as if trying to reject his own identity. Fortunately, Charnos and the others seemed not to have noticed because they were too far away. The atmosphere between the two was tense and chaotic, signaling that the aftermath of the storm was far from over. Ren was frantic, repeatedly questioning Turner about the whereabouts of the others in their group and why Turner was here. He didn't let Turner answer, making the atmosphere tense and chaotic. Turner, with an expressionless face and his arms still wrapped tightly around a log, finally took decisive action. He hit Ren's forehead with the log to snap him out of it. Although it hurt, Ren was forced to calm down after that wake-up call delivered with cold indifference. Turner surprised everyone by chasing after the troublemakers who were fleeing the village alone. He pretended to be a wolf, spreading fear to force them to return. While Ren was still bewildered by what had just happened, Turner quietly sat by the stream, not boasting at all. The girl beside him observed him, secretly acknowledging that his action was a significant achievement, even though Turner didn't show any pride. Ren questioned Turner about why he had followed the group of kids leaving the village without telling the adults, but Turner just replied that it was coincidental. Ren emotionally admitted that the whole group had narrowly escaped death, and if anything had happened to just one person, he wouldn't have been able to forgive himself. Overcome with emotion, Ren clenched his fist tightly, showing deep remorse and genuine concern for his friends. Turner burst into tears, his tears streaming down as he sincerely apologized for putting the whole group in danger. The pent-up emotions made him cry, while the other kids were confused but also relieved. Ren quickly changed the atmosphere by reminding everyone to wash off the blood, and another boy cheerfully exclaimed that the most important thing was that everyone was safe. The atmosphere became warm and relieved after the life-or-death battle. After the battle, Ren was worried because Turner's clothes were stained with blood, insisting on washing them to avoid worrying the adults when they came to pick them up. Turner was hesitant and refused, but Ren was adamant, prompting Turner to teasingly ask back, "Ren, do you want to see me undress?" The question caught Ren off guard, but he quickly changed the subject, suggesting a special fruit that could clean the clothes without having to take them off. The atmosphere between the two gradually became lighter and warmer after the ordeal. Ren insisted that Turner take off his shirt to wash it, thinking that there was no need to be shy between two boys. However, when Turner used the pronoun min in an unusual way, Ren began to suspect something. The suspicion quickly turned into shock when he realized that Turner might not be a boy. Turner immediately ran away from Ren in panic, leaving Ren standing there, stunned and dazed by the newly discovered truth. Turner timidly hid behind a tree, his face red with worry, and finally confessed, "I'm a girl." The statement made the atmosphere fall silent for a moment. Ren was stunned, his eyes frozen, and his brain almost froze as he tried to process the newly revealed truth. The call, T. Turner-chan, that came out of his mouth was like a reflex, signaling an unexpected turning point in the relationship between the two. The news that Turner was a girl spread like a thunderclap on a clear day. A boy who overheard the news from afar immediately shouted out in panic, "Hey, is Turner a girl?" The question echoed throughout the mountains and forests, creating a chain reaction of "Is SHE a girl? Is SHE a girl? Is SHE a girl?" As if nature itself was also surprised. The humorous scene ended the tense moment with a touch of wit, suggesting a change in the way people viewed Turner. The village elders are facing the main characters. Ren stands in front, looking confident and happy, explaining something with a gesture towards himself. Beside him, Turner is silent, holding onto Ren's sleeve as if for reassurance. Meanwhile, the elders' faces are serious and skeptical, with some furrowing their brows and others avoiding eye contact. The atmosphere is tense, mixed with anticipation for an explanation. This moment seems to mark a change in the relationship between the children and the adults after the previous event. The elders and villagers have arrived at the scene of the battle. Expressions of shock and seriousness are evident on their faces as they take in the aftermath. A devastated landscape, monster corpses scattered around, and deep gashes in the ground from the whirlwind. The leader says sternly, "This is," as if unable to believe their eyes. The scene clearly demonstrates the unexpected power that has been unleashed, signaling a turning point in the adults' perception of the children. The adults in the village arrive at the scene and are shocked by the devastation. One person exclaims, "It's terrible," upon seeing the mangled monster corpses. Another confirms that this is indeed the site of the previous whirlwind. The elder kneels down to examine the ground and states clearly that the whirlwind was released to destroy the wolves. The atmosphere becomes serious, reflecting the terrifying extent of the power that was just used. When asked about the current situation, Mr. Double responds thoughtfully that things don't seem simple. Despite the surface-level appearance of just a wolf monster attack, he senses a much more complicated presence lurking beneath. Meanwhile, a boy is carefree, washing clothes by the stream, seemingly unaware of the growing suspicion among the adults about the true power behind the recent whirlwind. The boy is taken aback upon hearing the name Tanya, a name he had never heard from his companion before. The girl calmly confirms, "That's my real name." The revelation leaves him stunned, and he whispers quietly, "I didn't know." A moment of silence follows, filled with emotion, as the truth about Turner's identity gradually comes to light, taking their relationship to a deeper level. Turner walks away quietly, while those around her gradually come to terms with the truth about her identity. A boy recalls, "Everyone called her Turner," but then tells himself, "I guess that's just how it is." He also reveals that his real name is Relight, though everyone calls him Ren. Amidst the hesitant atmosphere and mixed emotions, a soft call, "Hey," comes from behind, marking the beginning of a more honest conversation, when names are not just labels, but a connection between people. Ren whispered, asking Tanya to keep his magic a secret. He felt uneasy, worrying about the consequences if others discovered his special power. Tanya, with a calm expression, listened to his concerns, but didn't seem too worried. He continued to explain that no matter how he looked at it, his magic was clearly unusual, and he couldn't let anyone know. Tanya asked again if it would be a big problem if others found out. This scene evoked suspicion and worry in Ren's mind, but it was also a moment of shared tension between the two. Ren confessed his biggest fear. If the villagers discovered his special magic, the way they treated him would change. They might consider him a prodigy, but they might also see him as a frightening heretic. Worse still, he might be expelled from the village, something he absolutely wanted to avoid. Ren sighed, affirming, "Being normal is the best." In response to his sincerity and concerns, Tanya quietly replied with a simple but empathetic sentence, "I understand." A moment of deep empathy between the two gradually formed. Ren was astonished when Tanya said she understood and would keep his magic a secret. He eagerly asked, his eyes shining, "Really, really, are you sure? Absolutely sure," Tanya calmly replied, "I promise." Immediately after, he was so moved that he thanked her and received an unexpected slap on the face. The mix of seriousness and humor created a lovely, intimate moment between the two. Ren and Tanya sat next to each other, drawing a diagram on the ground to come up with a plausible reason to hide the truth about the whirlwind caused by magic. Tanya was serious. "It has to be a really good reason." Ren confidently replied, "We'll come up with a perfect story." However, before they could finalize their plan, a group of adults discovered the two children. The shout, "Found them," rang out, followed by surprised gazes and rising tension, signaling that trouble was approaching. When discovered by the adults, Ren and Tanya were immediately scolded. A stern man shouted, "The forest is not a place for kids to wander around," and asked if they knew how dangerous it was. Another woman bowed her head, apologizing on behalf of the children. The atmosphere became tense, but the important question remained unanswered. What actually happened? Putting Ren and Tanya in a position where they had to come up with a prepared explanation. When informed that the children had been found, Mr. Double approached with a serious expression. After observing them, he confirmed that although both were soaked, they didn't have any serious injuries. Ren smiled and replied, "Yes," casually, while Tanya bowed her head silently, both trying to appear normal, as if nothing significant had happened. The atmosphere temporarily eased, but Mr. Double's gaze suggested that he was still considering many things. When Mr. Double asked further, Ren quickly fabricated a story that the two were running away from a pack of wolves and unfortunately fell into the river. He skillfully added that the wolves seemed to be fighting over something, so they didn't pay attention to the two children. While Ren lied very naturally, Turner remained silent with a heavy gaze, as if struggling with her conscience. In the final scene, Ren turned to Turner, seeking confirmation, putting Turner in a difficult position. The lie had begun, and she was forced to continue playing along. Just as the atmosphere became tense due to the lie about the pack of wolves, Turner suddenly spoke up simply, "I'm hungry." The brief statement, accompanied by the rumbling sound of her stomach, dissipated the serious atmosphere. Ren looked at her with a mischievous expression, and the adults burst out laughing, feeling relieved. This final scene was like a humorous sigh of relief, closing the tense episode with Turner's charming and endearing gesture. As it started to get dark, Mr. Double ordered the group to return to the village, temporarily putting aside all questions to ensure safety. He emphasized the need to be vigilant on the way back and volunteered to go last to protect everyone. The final scene shows the group making their way towards the village gate, where the villagers were waiting, marking the end of a dramatic but safe journey. As the group just arrived at the village gate, a worried call echoed from afar. "Ren!" The boys' parents hastily ran out, their faces clearly showing fear. Ren also paused for a moment, then exclaimed, "Mom!" In an emotional moment, he rushed into his mother's arms, hugging her tightly as if to release all the fear he had experienced in the forest. This was a heartwarming moment that closed a tense journey. As soon as she hugged her son, the mother's emotions burst forth, and she immediately turned to anger. She shouted loudly, "You idiot!" and literally threw Ren backward. The outburst of anger was accompanied by words of rebuke. "Why didn't you ask the adults first? Did you sneak out of the village without permission?" Meanwhile, Ren lay sprawled on the ground, weakly sighing, "I'm sorry." The scene was both humorous and heartwarming, showing the mother's strict love and genuine concern for her son. After the outburst of anger, the mother gently hugged Ren, anxiously asking, "Were you scared? Were you hurt anywhere?" Ren shook his head but thought to himself that his mother's slap hurt more than facing the pack of wolves. Despite being scolded and hit, he still felt his mother's true love. In that moment, the mother burst into tears of relief. "It's a blessing." The scene ended with a warm hug, clearly showing the deep and touching mother-son bond after a life-threatening ordeal. After the mother's scolding, Ren's father stepped forward, gently stroking his head, and playfully scolded. "You were too naughty today." Ren looked at him, softly saying, "Dad." The father smiled kindly, advising in a loving tone, "Don't make your mother worry too much, okay, son?" The scene ended with Ren's emotional gaze, showing the warmth and deep connection within the family after the ordeal they had just gone through. Ren hugged his mother tightly, softly promising to be more careful in the future. When he opened his eyes, his gaze stopped abruptly. At the village gate, his friends Ted, Charnos, Enoch, and Massey had also returned safely. The village adults breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing the children unharmed. This reunion brought a sense of relief and emotion after the series of recent events. Turner was cared for by the village adults after the incident, but her eyes still held a contemplative air. Although Ren smiled in relief, Turner was lost in thought life in this new world, which seemed easy, turned out to be full of complications and challenges. The concluding sentence quietly closed the chapter, leaving a gentle but profound resonance about the journey of survival and integration of a lost soul in a new world. A few days after the incident in the forest, daily life gradually returned to normal. Ren's mother smiled as she handed him a basket, asking him to go shopping as usual, and the air was once again fresh and peaceful in the small village. Although Ren was still a bit tense, he responded calmly. Everything seemed as though nothing had happened, marking the beginning of a new chapter with a slow but subtle pace. The area near the village wall was still on high alert due to the appearance of the monster that had caused the whirlwind earlier. Explorers were being sent to hunt down this dangerous creature. Meanwhile, Ren, the one who had actually caused the strange phenomenon, just smiled mischievously, seemingly without any worry. He silently wished for everyone's safe return, hiding his huge secret beneath his innocent appearance. As Ren was on his way to the market, a playful little girl suddenly appeared, stretching her arms like an airplane and shouting "Vroom," which surprised him. She quickly recognized him and exclaimed happily, "I've found Ren." Other children gathered around, cheering and surrounding him as if they had discovered a treasure. Ren was teased, making him a bit flustered, but he could only react helplessly. "Stop it." The atmosphere became lively and joyful, a complete contrast to the secrets he was hiding. Ren was happily reunited with his friends after the incident when Anne suddenly exposed him in front of everyone. "You jumped over the wall." While Ren was still confused, Anne innocently reenacted the scene of him jumping over the wall, making Ren's face turn pale, thinking, "I'm in trouble," and still remembers. The initially light and warm atmosphere suddenly turned into a mix of embarrassment and humor, hinting at the special ability that Ren was trying to keep hidden. When Anne innocently retold Ren's impressive wall-jumping feat, Turner suddenly crossed her arms and denied it. Ren didn't do anything great. Surprise spread. Ren was surprised. Anne reacted strongly. "I don't need to see it to know it's amazing," although it seemed like she was defending Ren. Turner was actually trying to divert attention, protecting the secret of Ren's ability. The exchange was simple, but skillfully concealed the special thing that Ren was hiding, creating a warm and humorous atmosphere. Ren suddenly stood up, waved his hand, and asserted with a serious face, "I'm not good at anything," which left everyone stunned. Turner looked bewildered and gently countered, "Isn't that something to be confident about?" While Anne awkwardly accepted, "Not good is fine too." The humorous atmosphere continued when Turner tried to salvage the situation by saying, "Everyone is just overestimating Ren," which made Ren embarrassed and think to himself, "You don't really think that, do you, Turner?" The back and forth between keeping the secret and Ren's pride continued to bring light, yet profound, laughter to the story. Previously, a wolf monster appeared in the forest, causing terror for the villagers. Ren used wind magic to successfully repel it, but kept it a secret and only shared it with Turner. However, due to the effect of the magic creating a tornado-like phenomenon, the villagers misunderstood that a new, dangerous monster had appeared. Things started to get complicated from there. The children in the village were excited when they heard that adventurers were coming to the village to eliminate the monster. One boy was extremely excited, while the other children were curious about what the adventurers would look like and whether they would be as cool as they imagined. The whole village was buzzing with excitement about the adventurers who would eliminate the monster that created the tornado, making Anne extremely enthusiastic and admiring. However, Ren, the one who actually used wind magic to create the tornado, could only force a smile when hearing people praise the adventurers, while Turner glanced at him suspiciously, and Ren quickly looked away, thinking to himself, "Don't look this way." The group of children in the village were eagerly waiting for the adventurers and hopping to hear exciting stories from the outside world. One boy showed his excitement, saying he wanted to hear all sorts of stories, as the children rarely met strangers outside the village. Ren held his little sister and quietly observed the excitement of everyone, thinking to himself, "Everyone is curious." A boy with bangs covering his eyes calmly said that the adventurers would drop by his shop, and if he got a chance to talk to them, that would be the time. Ted revealed that the adventurers were staying at his house, but he wasn't allowed to meet them because his father forbade it. A friend asked if Ted had a chance to talk to them, but Ted explained that his father didn't want him to become an adventurer. Ren and the other friends listened attentively, and Ted sadly added that if the village elder's son became an adventurer, it would be a big problem. A girl looked out the window and excitedly reported, "They're at the shop right now." The group of young friends immediately focused their attention, their faces showing surprise and excitement. The scene shifted to a simple two-story house with a tile roof and a signboard, where a crowd had gathered, indicating that the adventurers had actually arrived and were attracting the attention of the whole village. The group of children gathered together, with Ted enthusiastically taking the lead and asking if everyone was ready. One by one, they lined up, looking nervous but also excited, and responded in unison, "Okay." However, just as Ted was about to lead the charge, he bumped into the adult in front of him and cried out, "Ouch," causing Ren and the little girl behind him to stand still, watching with a calm expression. The serious atmosphere was quickly broken by a humorous flop. The group of children finally faced one of the adventurers, a muscular, fierce-looking man with a thick beard and an intimidating aura. The light from the child shone on his massive body, creating a stark contrast. He frowned down, looking annoyed and surprised by the children's presence, muttering, "What are these kids?" The atmosphere immediately became tense as the children's initial excitement clashed with the harsh reality of the adult world. The children looked at the adventurers with suspicious and worried eyes, seeing that they looked too intimidating, unlike their imagined heroes. The group fell silent, not daring to speak up, only whispering, "Are these really adventurers?" Meanwhile, the muscular bald man frowned and asked back with a cautious tone, "Are they wanted criminals?" The atmosphere reached an awkward level between the two parties. A meeting that no one had anticipated began like this. As soon as the boy lightly touched the large warrior, he was scolded loudly. "You touched me without apologizing." The group froze, panicked by the overreaction. Ren thought to himself, he didn't even touch him that hard. Why is he making such a big deal? Doubtful looks began to appear. Are these really adventurers, or are they just thugs in disguise? Meanwhile, a woman intervened loudly, trying to ease the tense atmosphere. Do we really need to make such a big fuss? No one dared to step forward, and the atmosphere suddenly became suffocating. The woman tried to intervene, but when the large warrior growled at her, she retreated in worry, stuttering, "It's nothing." The girls around her looked at her with disappointment because she gave up too quickly. The muscular bald man continued to make a scene, holding his arm and pretending to be in pain. "Ah, it hurts. My arm is broken." Some people nearby started to feel embarrassed for them. "Are you guys bullying kids?" Meanwhile, the little girl still clutched Ren's clothes from behind, her eyes full of worry as she looked up. The atmosphere became ridiculous, but also concerning due to the clear disparity in strength. When the atmosphere was tense, Tetra suddenly pointed at the large man with an innocent face and blurted out, "Scary face," making Ren shocked and call out her name in panic. That innocent comment drew everyone's attention to the two children, and the bald man was taken aback, his eyes wide with offense. No one expected that an innocent remark could make the atmosphere so awkward and humorous. Hearing Tetra call him "scary face," the muscular man reacted violently, growling with anger, emitting an aura of intimidation that made everyone shudder. Ren panicked, pulling his little sister back while still showing a hint of fear, thinking to himself, "Of course, he's really scary." The tense atmosphere suddenly became suffocating due to a truthful comment that was too honest. Tetra was so scared that she hid behind Ren, trembling under the pant leg of her older brother. Ren wasn't much better, sweating profusely, thinking to himself, "Even an adult like me is terrified." The muscular man leaned in close to Ren with a fierce gaze, making Ren smile awkwardly and step back, thinking, "Too close." The atmosphere was so tense that even the slightest sound would make everyone jump. Ren was surrounded by the adventurers with intimidating faces, standing so close that there was hardly any space to breathe. His mind was filled with a single thought: everyone's too close. In his confusion, Ren bowed his head and apologized. "I'm very sorry." And in his own imaginary spotlight, he reminisced, "Apologizing was indeed my forte in my past life." A villager hastily brought the item requested by the adventurers to ease the situation, bowing his head in apology. "Just a child's words. Please forgive us." The large man scowled as he accepted the bag of money, clicking his tongue in dissatisfaction. After receiving the item, he spoke up. "We're here to protect this village, so it's better to be careful with your words." In the tense situation, the woman tried to ease the tension by suggesting they forget about the monster, while the man wearing a hat bowed his head and pleaded, saying the village had paid enough. Young Ren secretly hoped they would leave because there wasn't actually a monster in the forest. However, the fierce leader remained angry, retorting, "At least teach the kids to respect their elders." The adventurers finally left with cold faces and a warning not to block their way. Ren tried to appear strong and calm, but his body continued to tremble. The gentle woman asked if he was okay, realizing he was scared. The people around them sighed in agreement, thinking that the adventurers were rude and excessive. The man announced that the adventurers, despite their rough appearance, were quite skilled, as they had found the monster in the forest. Ren was shocked and worried upon hearing this, as he thought there shouldn't be any monsters left in the forest. He glanced at Turner, and they both felt a sense of unease and surprise. After the adventurers left, the children sat under a tree, sharing their feelings. They were all disappointed and frightened because the people they had imagined as heroes turned out to be rude and scary. Turner drew the leader's face to vent her anger, while the other children chimed in, criticizing them as bad-tempered, detestable, and terrible. One child commented, "There are all kinds of adventurers," as if trying to reassure themselves. The atmosphere became lighter, but there was still a lingering sense of unease and disappointment. The group of children gathered under a tree and discussed their ideal adventurer prototypes. None of them wanted to become as rough as the adventurers they had just met. A little girl expressed her wish for the monsters to be eliminated soon so that the adventurers would leave the village quickly. Meanwhile, Ren began to ponder the adventurers' words, wondering if there were really wolves in the forest or if new monsters had appeared. The question about the truth behind the rumors made Ren uneasy. The next morning, Ren was surprised to see Turner wearing a dress, which was a rare occurrence. He commented that it was strange, and both of them fell into an awkward silence when facing each other. The atmosphere became quiet, as if both were embarrassed by the sudden change. Ren wondered why Turner was silent, but before he could understand what was happening, she hit him repeatedly with a wooden stick. Without explanation, Turner coldly pulled Ren along, declaring that they would investigate the adventurers together. Although Ren wasn't sure of the reason, he had to follow, thinking to himself, "To uncover the truth, Turner and I will investigate those adventurers together." Ren and Turner discussed ways to investigate the adventurers. Turner believed that the group wouldn't pay attention to children like them, while Ren suggested asking Ted's father. However, when Ren turned back, they suddenly faced the adventurers directly, who were approaching with cold faces and an overwhelming aura, leaving Turner speechless. Ren and Turner secretly watched from behind as they saw Enoch and Massey bowing their heads and begging a sly-looking man for help, promising to do anything. However, the man showed irritation and refused outright, although he commented that they were persistent. Turner recognized him as the man with the intimidating gaze from the group of adventurers, while both Ren and Turner didn't understand what was happening. Enoch and Massey loudly expressed their desire to become adventurers, urgently asking the man to take them on as disciples to be trained in strength. However, he coldly refused, telling them to take care of themselves. Ren and Turner watched from behind, secretly wondering if the two boys had lost their senses, as even Ted had never done anything as reckless as this. A strange man pointed to Zia's house and asked if anyone was living there. When Ren confirmed and provided details that it was Zia's house with 4 family members, including her parents, Zia, and her almost 1-year-old brother, the man didn't seem to care about their identities and only asked about the number of people living there, then coldly jotted something down in his notebook. When asked why he was counting the number of people in the house, the man vaguely explained that it was to prepare an evacuation route in case the monster attacked the village. Although the explanation sounded reasonable, his actions and expressions made the children suspicious, as if he was following a pre-written script. Some children began to worry if the monster was truly dangerous, while a few others followed along with a joking attitude. The man tried to describe the monster he saw, using grandiose words like huge, crazy, and very terrifying, but his description was jumbled and lacked logic. When he ended with the word floofy, the two children, Ren and Turner, immediately noticed the obvious contradiction and felt that the whole story sounded extremely suspicious. An elderly man was smoking when he was approached by the group of adventurers. The bearded leader reported that they had discovered the monsters and his friends were currently tracking them. The elderly man's expression turned serious upon hearing the news, indicating a significant turning point. The large adventurer attempted to initiate a conversation with the old man by complimenting him on his past reputation as an adventurer. However, the old man remained cold and skeptical, reacting ambiguously to the flattery. Both parties were cautious, and their conversation, although calm, was laced with probing. The adventurer suddenly threw a powerful punch to demonstrate his strength to the old man. He said that if it were just an ordinary monster, he would have handled it easily. However, a close-up shot showed that the old man's sword was partially drawn, indicating that he was not caught off guard or at a disadvantage. Instead, he remained calm and ready to react. The atmosphere became tense, foreshadowing a potential confrontation. The adventurer emphasized that this time, things were not as simple as before, and it was clear that the old man knew why he was there. The cold gaze of the old man in the final frame showed that he fully understood the implication behind the adventurer's words and also proved that he was not intimidated. On the contrary, he seemed to have anticipated this for a long time. The atmosphere between the two became heavy, foreshadowing that the truth was about to be revealed. Leading the group is a muscular warrior with a half-shaved head, a thick beard, and a cold expression, followed by 3 companions with different expressions, one cold, one calm, and the last one looking panicked and sticking out his tongue. The composition emphasizes the overwhelming aura of this group, signaling that they will play a crucial role in the new chapter. In a grand meeting room, the characters are discussing conflicts regarding their plan of action. A long-haired man stands up, slams his hand on the table, and angrily shouts, "This is not what we agreed upon." Meanwhile, the muscular warrior remains calm, sitting with his arms crossed, showing little concern for the unfolding anger, creating a tense contrast between the parties in the meeting. During the tense meeting, a young man strongly objects to involving Mr. Double in the fight, claiming it was not part of the original agreement. However, Mr. Double calmly accepts, while the bald warrior reassures that he will only be in the rear and won't be in danger. Although still somewhat hesitant, the situation suggests that the old man is about to be drawn into a challenging task. The tense meeting continues as someone proposes recruiting more adventurers for support, but is countered by the argument that the monsters won't wait. Another person expresses concern for the villagers' safety, urging action as soon as possible. Weevil angrily shouts, asserting that Mr. Double is also a villager and deserves protection like everyone else, highlighting the internal divisions on how to respond to the impending threat. The bald warrior asserts that having a wizard like Mr. Double will increase their chances of victory and reduce casualties on their side. Although someone remains concerned for Mr. Double's safety, the warrior vows to ensure his safety by swearing on his adventurer's emblem, demonstrating the depth of his determination and calculation in the plan to attack the monsters. Despite concerns for his safety, the old man Double insists he's fine and agrees to participate in eliminating the monsters so the villagers can rest easy. Admitting that his skills may have faded with time, he still maintains his fighting spirit, causing the warrior to laugh loudly and place his full trust in him for the upcoming battle. When everyone thinks they have finalized the agreement, a young priest angrily objects, demanding a renegotiation of the contract. While the bald warrior appears indifferent and dismissive, the bald-headed warrior scolds the commotion. However, tensions escalate when the serious old man, Double, suddenly speaks up, commanding the attention of the entire meeting room. On a quiet evening, Mr. Double brings firewood to a villager's house as usual. She opens the door with a friendly smile, thanking him for the familiar gift, the firewood that keeps her warm on cold nights. The atmosphere between them exudes warmth and familiarity, showing that Double is a respected member of the community. The woman invited Mr. Double to stay for dinner after receiving the firewood, but he declined because he still had to deliver to another house. However, her enthusiasm softened him, and he accepted staying for a while. Ren happened to witness this from afar, his expression slightly surprised, but seemingly also subtly pleased. The warm atmosphere spread, showcasing the close relationship between Double and the villagers. During the warm dinner, the young man asked Mr. Double if he was okay facing the monsters. Mr. Double replied calmly, while the young man and the woman expressed their concerns about the bad rumors surrounding the adventurers. The atmosphere was light, but it hid an underlying anxiety about the impending dangers. During dinner, the villagers discussed the group of adventurers with a not-so-friendly attitude. They were criticized for being rude, lacking manners, and having a bad influence on children. Ren silently agreed with the general sentiment, while Mr. Double nodded in confirmation, having witnessed their strength firsthand. The woman reminded Ren to keep his distance, and he obediently agreed. The atmosphere in the house remained warm, but the suspicion towards outsiders lingered. Ren thought to himself when he learned that Mr. Double had met and cooperated with the group of adventurers. Despite their roughness, their combat skills were undeniably excellent. He was surprised by the old man's insight and calmness. A village woman also chimed in, reminding that Mr. Double had lived there since the village was founded, a testament to his reputation and trust built over a long time. The atmosphere in the kitchen became lighter, but a sense of something deeper lingered behind Ren's eyes. In the warm atmosphere of the meal, Mr. Double reminisced about the village's development, from its early days to the present, with crops thriving and the population growing. Ren listened quietly, sensing the deep attachment Mr. Double had for the land. With an affectionate gaze, Mr. Double likened the village to children growing up little by little. The young man's suggestion to share stories of the past made the atmosphere even cozier, stirring up memories hidden in Mr. Double's mind. After the warm dinner, Mr. Double stood up to bid farewell, grateful for the generous meal. Despite the dangers still lurking outside from the monsters, he reassured everyone with a calm smile. "Don't worry, they'll disappear soon." His words and resolute gaze made Ren and the others feel more confident, as if the village would always be safe with him around. Ren looked up at Mr. Double with eyes full of trust. Mr. Double gently patted Ren's head to reassure him, but his clumsy gesture left Ren's hair messy. Still, Mr. Double's words, "I'm sure," and his kind face brought an unusual sense of safety. Ren couldn't help but think, he's really not good at patting heads, but he felt more reassured than ever. The Wren family saw Mr. Double off into the night, the lantern in his hand lighting up the path ahead. They smiled and bid farewell, promising that if they had the opportunity, they would have a proper meal together next time. Wren watched as Mr. Double's figure disappeared into the distance, feeling a complex mix of emotions, warmth and worry. The night was quiet, but something felt unsettling. Mr. Double joined the group of adventurers as they entered the forest where the monsters were hiding. Along the way, one of the group members continuously questioned him about his strength and weaknesses, clearly showing his distrust. As they approached the battlefield, the tension grew. The leader asked Mr. Double if he was ready, and he calmly confirmed ahead of them the monsters were waiting. In the quiet forest, a young soldier sat by the campfire and coldly announced, "They're here." The atmosphere immediately became tense. Mr. Double's group appeared, and the bald man with a thick beard apologized for keeping them waiting. Mr. Double's eyes were cold and cautious. A confrontation was about to begin. The big bald man asked to eat a meal before they acted, then devoured the food aggressively. Meanwhile, Mr. Double maintained a stern gaze, not relaxing at all. He interrupted the man coldly. "How much longer do you plan to drag this out? Where are the monsters?" His suspicion growing. The bald man burst into a maniacal laugh, then coldly declared, "There are no monsters." Mr. Double was taken aback, his eyes becoming heavy and serious. He began to realize the horrific truth behind the requests for help. "You're saying that a trap had been set from the start?" Mr. Double fell silent, his eyes weighed down as he faced the sinister and fake smile of the adventurers. The bald man repeated with a sarcastic tone that there were no monsters, once again emphasizing the terrifying truth. He stepped forward, his voice slow but full of menace. "We've searched everywhere. Don't misunderstand." The atmosphere became ominous, signaling a dark conspiracy slowly unfolding. While Mr. Double was still questioning the true purpose, the leader's subordinates suddenly appeared from all sides, surrounding him in the forest. The leader sat calmly, smiling coldly, saying that his subordinates could now focus on their main task, since they knew there were no monsters. Mr. Double realized the true plot, his face frozen, his eyes full of caution as everything gradually revealed itself to be a dangerous trap targeting him. The leader coldly declared that their true target was the village, the one Mr. Double was protecting. That statement was like a declaration of war, making Mr. Double realize that the entire group were robbers disguising themselves as adventurers. He stared at the opponent, questioning the adventurer's badge that the leader wore, then calmly uttered a single word. "Robbers," affirming the harsh truth and marking the beginning of a tense confrontation. The robber confessed that he had killed a real adventurer to steal his badge, then used it to deceive the innocent and naive villagers. He boasted that only the wizard, Mr. Double, was sharp enough to suspect and thwart their plan. In response to this arrogant attitude, Mr. Double could only exclaim in indignation, "What have you done?" A question that was like an accusation and sparked a righteous confrontation. The leader confidently declared that the village would belong to them, emphasizing that with their overwhelming numbers, the old wizard had no chance. He mocked Mr. Double, saying it would be easy to capture the village. However, Mr. Double remained calm, replying, "That village is still young, but there's nothing there for you." The robbers laughed, thinking Mr. Double's words were a plea, but his eyes showed no fear, just a cold warning of an impending storm. The leader cruelly declared that they would send the entire village to the other world so they wouldn't be lonely, but Mr. Double responded calmly, "I understand," and turned to walk away, showing no fear. The leader jeered, saying they should have attacked the village directly instead of beating around the bush, but Mr. Double continued, "There are many things worth protecting in that village." The robber's expression faltered for a moment, as if he had realized he had crossed a line that shouldn't be crossed. Mr. Double finally revealed his true strength. While the robbers were still laughing, he summoned a black fireball that blazed in his hand, his eyes sharp as a knife. With a resolute tone, he declared, "This situation is actually quite advantageous. I won't let you reach the village." The robbers were stunned for a moment, then their leader burst into laughter, but it was clear he had felt the real pressure from this interesting old man. There was no doubt the battle had officially begun. Mr. Double stood in a fierce fighting stance, his eyes cold and sharp, and his arm unleashed a powerful magical blast like a whirlwind of fire. His cloak fluttered behind him, and the magical light cast on his mature face was full of determination. This image seemed to affirm that the battle to protect the village had officially entered a life-or-death stage. Early in the morning at the village, a little girl ran to Ren in a panic, reporting that Mr. Double was in danger. Ren rubbed his eyes and called out to Turner, still not fully awake, wondering what was happening so early in the morning. The tense atmosphere indicated that a major crisis was approaching. Turner anxiously asked about Mr. Double's situation, but the little girl remained silent and pulled him along. On the way, she informed him that not only Mr. Double, but also the group of adventurers had disappeared. Turner gradually realized something was off. His eyes filled with unease as he thought about the worst-case scenario. Turner tried to reassure himself with the hypothesis that Mr. Double had simply gone to fight monsters with the adventurers. He kept asking to confirm, hoping this was the truth. However, the little girl's silent gaze and somber expression made him even more uneasy. It seemed she was hiding something serious. Turner had a premonition that something was wrong. Even if Mr. Double had left the village to destroy monsters, she suspected there weren't any in the forest. Meanwhile, Ren became increasingly worried as he realized the possibility that Mr. Double had been taken away by the adventurers. The frightening truth began to gradually unfold. Turner was determined to uncover the truth when he realized the adventurers were lying. She believed they had another reason for taking Mr. Double into the forest. Along with Ren, the two children prepared to set out to investigate, driven by their determination to protect the person they cared about. Ren realized that Turner's intuition was accurate. If the adventurers truly had malicious intentions, then Mr. Double might be in danger. Turner decided to go alone to investigate, knowing the journey would be fraught with risks. Ren respected his decision and nodded in agreement, his eyes betraying his concern. Ren tried to stop Turner by clinging tightly to his friend, pleading with him to understand the place he was about to go could be very dangerous. Turner stopped, his face still resolute, but his eyes hinting at anxiety. Despite not knowing what lay ahead, he was determined to go to protect Mr. Double. Turner hugged Ren tightly, insisting that he wouldn't let him take the risk alone. He promised to uncover the adventurer's plot and rescue Mr. Double safely. Despite Ren's attempts to pull him back, Turner remained resolute, ending with a comical faceplant, but also revealing his genuine determination. Turner grabbed a log and jumped over the protective fence, determined to keep his promise. Ren stood behind, watching silently, his heart filled with a mix of emotions, worry, trust, and a hint of hesitation. The quiet atmosphere seemed to highlight Turner's brave decision. Turner had convinced Ren to stay behind, and he set out alone to find Mr. Double. He decided to head east, the direction Ren suspected something was amiss. His heart was filled with determination, but he couldn't hide his worry, and he silently vowed to rescue Mr. Double quickly. However, before venturing deeper into the forest, he suddenly stopped, because there was one important thing he needed to do first. Turner decided to use wood attribute magic, but he had to act secretly, because he didn't want Mr. Double to know about his magical abilities. He cast a spell and summoned vines from the ground, wrapping them tightly around his body, an action that seemed strange, but appeared to be a special preparation for something important that was about to happen. Turner used magic to create a suit of armor made of vines that covered his entire body, hiding his identity. He believed that with this form, Mr. Double wouldn't recognize him. However, the tightly wrapped armor made it difficult for him to move, and he stumbled with each step, creating a scene that was both comical and determined. Old Man Double was fighting against a large group of mercenaries in the forest. Although he was surrounded and panting with exhaustion, he remained calm, grasping his magic tightly. The enemy was astonished by his endurance, and the leader sneered, calling him pitiful, without realizing the true strength that still lay hidden within him. The leader angrily shouted orders to kill the old man, thinking that he was just a lone individual. The soldiers cheered and charged forward, swinging their swords to finish him off quickly. However, Mr. Double stood firm, his eyes cold and sharp, as a powerful aura began to emanate from his body, signaling that his true strength was about to be unleashed. Mr. Double unleashed a series of extremely powerful fireballs, burning many of the soldiers to death in agony. One of them screamed, "Too hot," as flames engulfed his body. The unexpected display of magical power sent the soldiers into a panic. One was knocked into the water, while others tried to extinguish the fierce flames burning on their bodies. The counterattack had officially begun. Mr. Double realized that the situation was becoming unfavorable as the enemy began to take advantage of the terrain, using water to extinguish the flames. Two soldiers crawled into the river, gasping for breath and trying to recover. He suspected, did they choose this place for that reason? Elsewhere, the commander ordered, "Archers, prepare." The arrows were already nocked, ready to counterattack. The danger was starting to come from a distance. The arrows shot towards Mr. Double, but with a single-hand gesture, he summoned a wave of black flames, incinerating them all before they could reach him. The archers cried out in horror, "Bows are useless," sending the entire team into a panic. The old man stood steadfast amidst the smoke, his eyes cold and full of killing intent. The old man declared resolutely that he wouldn't let them enter the village, his eyes fixed firmly on the enemy. Meanwhile, the leader was displeased that the plan hadn't succeeded when one of his subordinates suddenly shouted, "Look over here, old man," as if preparing a new trick to distract him. The tense atmosphere seemed to signal that a sudden turn of events was about to occur. The enemy suddenly presented 3 weak villagers as hostages, shocking Mr. Double. The man taunted him, saying that they had once sworn to follow him to become adventurers, but now he would utilize them as tools to intimidate. Mr. Double looked at the 3 people, his heart racing with anger and concern, realizing that the bandits would stop at nothing to achieve their goals. In the face of the enemy's ridicule, Mr. Double called them cowards. The leader laughed in response. "Thanks for the compliment." Without further argument, Mr. Double quietly stepped to the river's edge and ordered, "Get into the river." Under his stern and silent gaze, the next plan seemed to have begun. The atmosphere became tenser than ever. The villain threatened that if Mr. Double made any suspicious move, the innocent villagers would lose their lives. He ordered Mr. Double to kneel down and put his hands in the water as an act of humiliation. Mr. Double, calm and composed, obeyed. Meanwhile, one of the soldiers standing nearby sneered with sarcasm. The air was taut with tension, and everyone held their breath waiting for the next development. The soldier pressed his sword against Mr. Double's neck and mocked that he was causing too much trouble. Meanwhile, Mr. Double secretly calculated. Even if he obeyed them, the villagers would not be spared. His hand submerged in the water, revealing a glowing magical droplet about to be activated, a sign that he was prepared for a counterattack. The atmosphere became tense, as if a storm was about to erupt. A massive wave of water suddenly burst forth from where Mr. Double stood, creating a loud explosion that shocked the surrounding enemies. The closest soldier was thrown off and drenched, screaming in surprise. The water magic attack was launched as the first signal of resistance, officially opening the old wizard's counterattack. The old wizard launched a swift counterattack. His 2 hands burst forth water, rushing straight at the enemy and tightly grasping the armor on the soldier's chest, leaving him no time to react. In the moment of surprise, Mr. Double jumped up and delivered a powerful headbutt to the enemy's face, knocking him flying backward. The powerful blow caused the enemies behind to panic and watch in stunned amazement. The soldier who was knocked flying fell onto another, causing both to tumble, and the one behind panicked and shouted. The 2 bound villagers took the opportunity to struggle in fear. The old wizard immediately launched the next attack, swinging his hand to perform water magic with an icy gaze, shouting loudly, "Don't get up," as the magic began to form fiercely in his hands. The old wizard's magic burst forth intensely, creating a wall of fire that separated the enemies, causing the soldiers to panic and retreat. The leader clenched his fist in anger and frustration. Meanwhile, the old wizard turned to the bound villagers sitting next to the fallen guard, coldly declaring, "I will leave this place," and stepped forward, leaving the flames to continue burning fiercely as a warning. As the old wizard turned his back and walked away, the leader suddenly rushed forward and delivered a powerful punch to the old wizard's back. The unexpected blow caused the old wizard to stumble, and blood spurted from his mouth, but his eyes still showed a resolute and unyielding spirit. The sharp pain spread throughout his body, but he still managed to maintain his willpower in the face of the enemy lurking behind. The old man quickly counterattacked with a surprise round kick, causing the enemy to exclaim in surprise. The leader was kicked in the face, stumbling backward, while the old man, despite being injured, struggled to stand firm, gritting his teeth in pain. The anger surged, and the enemy leader shouted loudly, calling the old man out again, and the confrontation between the 2 sides escalated to a boiling point. The leader, enraged, watched as the old man's figure jumped into the river, water splashing into the air. He roared in frustration, standing on the riverbank with his sword at the ready, but could only watch as the old man's figure drifted further away in the water. His anger surging, he gritted his teeth and cursed loudly. "You foolish old man," realizing he had just let his target escape. They stood on the high ground, shouting down at where the old man had fallen into the water, their voices full of anger. "Hey, down there," then gritted their teeth. "Kill all the kids too." One of them raised his hand, gathering magical energy into a burning droplet of fire, preparing to unleash it. The 2 children below, Turner and his friend, trembled with fear, sweat pouring down their faces as they faced the deadly attack about to descend from above. The air became suffocating. Turner and Massey rushed to Mr. Double's side in panic, where he was leaning against a rock wall, his body covered in wounds and breathing heavily. Turner shouted loudly, "Mr. Double," but he only replied sternly, "Enoch Massey, return to the village immediately. Tell everyone what happened." The boy protested, his voice choked, "But you're heavily injured." His face filled with worry and tears streaming down, while Mr. Double remained resolute, his eyes revealing the gravity of the situation. Mr. Double, exhausted and leaning against a tree trunk, spoke in despair. "They will come soon. In this situation, we'll be killed." Turner and Massey sat beside him, also out of breath and full of anxiety. Massey trembled as he asked Turner, "You're going to become an adventurer, right?" But both of them just remained silent, heads bowed, without answering. A crack sound echoed behind them, signaling the approaching enemy. The atmosphere became more oppressive and perilous than ever. Just as Turner and Massey were losing hope, a gigantic, monstrous creature suddenly emerged from the forest. Its body was wrapped in bandages like a mummy, with a wooden log on its head, emitting an aura that was both strange and menacing. Both of them screamed in terror, "WH," as they saw the bizarre creature approaching, unsure whether it was an enemy or an ally. In the dark forest, a monstrous creature wrapped in vines, carrying a wooden stake on its head, emerged from behind a tree. The gigantic body moved heavily but menacingly, causing the two boys to scream in terror. The monster moved towards the two children with glowing eyes. One of the boys screamed, "AAHH," in extreme fear as he saw the giant creature approaching. When the two boys, Enoch and Massey, panicked and screamed at the sight of a terrifying monster, the protagonist, in the form of a monster wrapped in cloth, suddenly recognized them. He was shocked and exclaimed, not understanding why his friends were here. When he turned to follow their gaze, he saw Mr. Double had collapsed under the tree in silence. The worry and fear were evident on the faces of the three as they realized the situation was becoming extremely serious. Mr. Double leaned against the tree, motionless and seemingly completely unconscious. The protagonist, still in the monster's disguise, suddenly stopped when he saw him. He was stunned, his eyes wide with horror. His trembling hand reached out as if to touch him but couldn't. In that moment, he completely broke down, both shocked and in pain. Enoch and Massey were terrified, screaming in despair as the monstrous creature they had thought was a monster approached them. Despite their struggles, both were grabbed by its large arms wrapped in bandages. It was unclear what the creature intended to do, but the fear was evident in the eyes of the two children, who were unable to escape. Both Enoch and Massey were tightly wrapped in thick bandages by the monster, suspended and helpless against its strength. Then the two children were placed near the base of the tree, bound so tightly they couldn't move. Suddenly, the monster spoke, a familiar voice that left the children stunned. "Enoch, Massey, don't move." The feeling of horror began to turn into doubt and amazement. The giant monster, wrapped in bandages, stood silently before Mr. Double's unconscious body. It bent down to check and realized his condition was extremely critical, weak breathing, and a body covered in wounds. Despite its fearsome appearance, its actions and thoughts were full of worry and concern. A great mystery began to unravel. Was this really just a simple monster? The monster gently created a sphere of light from its bandaged hand and placed it on Mr. Double's injured body. Immediately, the wounds on his back began to heal miraculously. Then, the monster quickly lifted his body, preparing to leave. This unexpected and moving action revealed that it was not an enemy, but possibly a savior. As Mr. Double's wounds gradually healed thanks to the healing light, Enoch gasped, his eyes fixed on Mr. Double's body. In that moment, he saw Mr. Double smile peacefully. A feeling of relief, but also deep emotion surged up. Though tears hadn't fallen, Enoch's face tightened, as if he was making a silent promise to himself. The monster knelt down, silently watching Mr. Double as he stood up, the large wound on his back now healed. Mr. Double's eyes became calm, as if he had just gone through both physical and mental pain. In a different corner, Enoch clenched his fists, looking at Mr. Double with deep emotion and determination, as if ready to step forward on his own path. A group of villagers entered the forest and were horrified when they faced a giant creature wrapped in bandages, emitting a menacing aura. They panicked and wondered, "What is that monster?" Meanwhile, the mysterious creature just silently looked back, its eyes under the bandages seemingly hiding something deeper than ferocity. The villagers suspected that the bandaged creature was an accomplice of the villains who had attacked them. In their panic, they raised their weapons, but the creature's eyes were full of anger and sorrow as it looked at the old man's corpse. It wondered if these people were the culprits who had severely injured the kind old man, and its gaze began to emit a murderous intent. A sudden shock made the group standing before the monster jump. In an instant, a thunderous strike was unleashed, strong enough to blast one of the group members into the air, leaving a trail of light that tore through the night sky. The group was stunned by the terrifying power they had just witnessed. The bandaged monster threw a powerful punch at the tall warrior, sending him flying in a state of utter panic among his companions. The strike was so strong that it not only knocked the opponent unconscious, but also left the remaining men frozen in fear, realizing they had just provoked a terrifying force. The two soldiers panicked and ran away when they saw the bandaged monster swing its fist with glowing, ferocious eyes. However, before they could escape, they were both attacked strongly and flung away like rag dolls, demonstrating the creature's superior and terrifying strength. The soldier panicked and scrambled to his feet after the devastating blow, while the bandaged monster slowly approached with eyes full of indignation. It pictured Enoch and Massey in its mind, along with the angry thought, "They are the ones who harmed those two children." The enemy was now clear. It was time to retaliate. The bandaged monster clenched its fists, its eyes blazing with hatred as it recalled Mr. Double's suffering. It roared in its mind, its power surging. In the sky, sparkling fragments of light seemed to signal an impending explosion. The moment of revenge for the old man had arrived. Ren appeared with a cold expression, his sharp eyes full of caution. In the yard, the two boys asked Turner if he had seen Ren, but didn't get an immediate answer. The atmosphere was somewhat tense, as if someone was hiding something or something was about to happen. Turner replied that Ren was playing hide-and-seek. The two boys eagerly asked to join in. One of them even confidently claimed that he would find Ren despite his skill at hiding. Meanwhile, Turner maintained an unreadable expression, as if he knew more than he was letting on. The atmosphere became both innocent and subtly suspicious. After the intense battle, the protagonist in the fabric wrapping gasped for breath, realizing he had almost killed his enemies because his anger had overwhelmed his rationality. The defeated enemies lay scattered amidst the rising smoke. Meanwhile, Ren, who was currently controlling the monster, looked horrified and regretful, realizing his strength could be beyond his control. Tormenting emotions began to emerge in his heart. Ren, in his monstrous form, gazed at the fallen enemies, but did not deliver the final blow. His heart was filled with conflict and self-doubt. Despite being enraged and hurt by their actions, Ren acknowledged that he couldn't kill anyone. He bowed his head, his sweat and tears mixing together, his heart filled with regret and helplessness due to his lack of courage to end things violently. Ren, in his bandaged monstrous form, had tightly bound and hung the villains from a tree. They were tied upside down, completely immobile and unable to resist. Ren walked away calmly, his cold eyes observing what he had just done, thinking to himself, "Now they can't move anymore." He didn't kill them, but punished them by rendering them harmless, demonstrating the control and rationality he had regained after his outburst of anger. Ren, in his monstrous form, immediately detected the approach of many strangers. With a wary gaze and a defensive stance, he noticed the unusually large number of enemies. In the distance, a group of 4 villains, including a bald-headed man, a scar-faced man, and a man with a fierce expression, confirmed that Ren was their target. Tension began to rise, signaling a dangerous confrontation about to occur. Ren, in his monstrous form, quickly carried the unconscious Enoch, Massey, and Mr. Double and ran through the dense forest. He brought them to a cave hidden deep within the mountains, thinking, "If it's this place, then." Inside, the 2 children woke up in a state of confusion, unsure of what was happening. Ren gently placed them down, trying to find a safe haven before the pursuit continued. Ren, in his bandaged monstrous form, skillfully hid Enoch, Massey, and Mr. Double behind a thick bush, ensuring their safety. Looking at them one last time to make sure they weren't discovered, he thought to himself, "It's okay, I've hidden them." His gaze immediately turned cold as he looked towards the enemies, thinking, "Now all I have to do is take care of them." The atmosphere became tense in anticipation of the upcoming battle. One of the enemies detected something unusual among the trees, a dark shadow passing by, making him cautious. When he looked up, he was shocked to see Enoch, Massey, and Mr. Double hanging upside down, tied tightly to a branch. His expression changed to one of surprise mixed with confusion. What the heck is this? This unexpected presence signaled that something ominous was approaching. The accomplices panicked when they discovered that two soldiers were bound and gagged, hung in a pitiful manner. The leader angrily shouted, "What's going on here?" While the two captives could only mumble, sweat pouring down their faces due to fear, their eyes pleading for help. The tense atmosphere signaled that the attacker was still lurking somewhere, ready to strike. As the leader was still looking up in bewilderment, a large shadow suddenly swooped down from above with tremendous force. It was the bandaged monster, the main character, landing on the ground like a meteorite, creating a violent shockwave. The surrounding enemies recoiled in terror, and the scene became chaotic in an instant. The real battle had begun. The leader panicked and shouted angrily when he saw the monster appear on the battlefield, breaking the initial agreement. He yelled, "We agreed there wouldn't be any monsters." Meanwhile, Ren stood observing from a distance with a cold gaze, while the monster's imposing figure loomed closer, completely turning the situation around. The enemies screamed in panic, "There's a monster here," as they witnessed the giant creature land, causing the ground to crack under its impact. But beneath the surface, Ren was revealed within the monster's wrappings, half his body visible in the dim light, his resolute eyes showing that he was the one controlling the monster, or that he was it. The revelation was shocking, completely reversing the situation. Turner was right. A group of strangers appeared and drew attention due to their unusually large presence. Seeing the creature wrapped in vines standing guard over the boy, Turner sensed impending. These people were not explorers as they claimed. With their large numbers, it was clear they were planning to attack the village. If they reached the village, the villagers would have no chance of resistance. Turner decided he couldn't let, while the enemy leaders argued and doubted the origin of the creature, which the villagers called the Vine Monster. Turner prepared to confront them. Some of the group believed it couldn't be a monster because of its ability to create wind, something a plant creature couldn't do. But Turner didn't care about their reasoning. He knew where the ringleader was furious that his subordinates hadn't discovered the creature sooner. They justified themselves by saying that with its tree-like appearance, the confusion was understandable. But the truth was that they had now awakened an opponent they couldn't have. The enraged leader grabbed a subordinate by the head, lifting him with one hand. As the soldier cowered in fear, the leader growled, hatting the excuses and squeezed hard, making the man scream in pain. When asked about their mission, the choking soldier stuttered, "To destroy that creature." The leader's menacing gaze continued to weigh heavily on those. The leader raised his fist and shouted, declaring that their plan remained unchanged. They would destroy the monster and take over the village. Despite facing the strange creature advancing towards them, he tried to reassure his men that it was just a harmless puppet with a topknot. Meanwhile, the boy Ren clenched his teeth, vowing not to let them succeed, which startled. The vine-wrapped creature raised its hand, and dozens of long, flexible vines burst forth from its body like tentacles, spreading out into the surrounding space as if preparing to attack the enemy troops in front. The air became tense and threatening, revealing the true. The giant vines suddenly reached out and bound the soldiers' limbs, causing panic and cries for help. One man, tightly bound, shouted as he was dragged away, while others tried to remain calm, believing that if they moved slowly and carefully, they could cut through the vines. The battle atmosphere grew more. The vine-wrapped creature realized that using its vines to restrain the enemy was no longer effective, since they could easily cut them. It thought that it would be easier if it could bind everyone at once. Then, it changed its strategy, suddenly charging out from behind the tree and delivering a surprise attack that, as the creature attacked fiercely, a quick-thinking soldier jumped aside and shouted for the team to use tree trunks as shields. The commander immediately regrouped his men, ordering them to scatter and cause confusion. Meanwhile, the vine-wrapped creature observed the situation, seemingly reassessing its strategy. The vine-wrapped creature moved clumsily through the forest, prompting one soldier to sneer, thinking it slow and easy to deal with. The boy watched with a wary eye, thinking that this guy was somehow different. The leader looked smug, believing the creature to be nothing more than a clumsy, harmless thing, but the creature itself seemed irritated, as if hiding something. The giant creature realized it had made itself too large, making it hard to maneuver through the dense forest. It worried that if it continued like this, its plan would be exposed. Meanwhile, The enemy quickly counterattacked, with one soldier slashing at its leg, causing the massive body to stumble. People shouted warnings. Taking advantage of the creature's loss of balance, the team shouted, "Now!" and launched a fierce attack. They stabbed it with numerous spears, causing the creature to collapse. Some soldiers cheered in victory, with one mocking, "It wasn't even a challenge." Everyone believed they had. A few soldiers approached to inspect the creature's body and discovered a large cavity in its trunk, leaving everyone perplexed. A serious-looking man realized something was off, stating, "It's not over yet." At the edge of the forest, the silhouette of a similar creature slowly appeared, causing everyone to panic. Another creature, similar to the previous monster, appeared, but this time much smaller. One soldier exclaimed in surprise that it had shrunk, while another sighed in relief, commenting that it seemed weaker than before. From a different angle, the white-haired boy watched with a cold gaze, hiding. The small creature suddenly charged forward at terrifying speed, striking a soldier and sending him flying. The remaining soldiers were quickly overwhelmed by the relentless attack. One panicked soldier shouted, "It's too fast," as others were knocked down by the powerful and unexpected assault from the miniature monster. The battle, thought to be over, had turned. The small creature rushed forward at lightning speed, causing many soldiers to cry out in pain before they could react. A soldier with a crossbow immediately hid behind a tree trunk, ready to shoot, but was surprised to find that the creature had vanished. The group was in chaos, looking around frantically and exclaiming, "Where did it go?" Meanwhile, the creature was quietly hiding on a tree above. In this miniature form, the boy could focus on using enhanced magic and move more agilely than ever before. Realizing that his opponent couldn't keep up with his speed, he smiled confidently. He began to attack relentlessly, determined to take down each enemy effectively. Just as he was about to launch a new attack, his eyes suddenly became cautious the boy suddenly felt dizzy while controlling the monster's body, making him worry that he might have exhausted too much magical energy. However, after checking, he confirmed that he still had more than half of his magical power remaining. Deciding not to let that hinder him, he immediately accelerated, continuing the battle with the determination to end it quickly. Meanwhile, an enemy observed him with a sharp gaze and smiled with a hint of understanding. The bodies of the enemy soldiers lay scattered on the ground, indicating that the battle had clearly tilted in favor of the protagonists. The bearded leader stepped forward among the corpses of his companions, furious and contemptuous, calling them useless. Meanwhile, the protagonist, in the form of the monster, sat on a tree, calmly observing the entire scene and confirming that most of the enemies had been taken care of. The final goal now was to eliminate. The boy, who was controlling the monster, suddenly felt an unusual reaction in his body. A strange energy flowed through him, causing dizziness, headache, and nausea. From the tree branch, the monster remained still, but the boy realized that this was something that had never happened before. A sense of unease arose. It seemed that using too much enhanced magic in this form, the bearded man, the leader of the invading forces, was the last remaining target. The boy, from his position on the tree, tried to maintain his composure and told himself that he just needed a little more. Despite the strange sensations in his body, the puppet monster charged down decisively, aiming straight at the most formidable enemy. This was a decisive battle. As the puppet monster was about to launch an attack from above, one of the enemy soldiers quickly chopped down the tree it was standing on. The entire tree trunk collapsed, causing the monster to lose its balance. The aggressive leader shouted loudly, demanding that the puppet monster come down to face him directly, while still being surprised by the felled tree flew through the air like a missile, leaving everyone stunned. A soldier exclaimed in horror, "He's gone mad," as they watched the leader jump into the air with incredible strength, charging straight at the puppet monster with a thunderous fist, determined to deliver a finishing. The leader's punch, like a meteor, struck the puppet monster's chest, sending it flying backward with tremendous force. The boy controlling it was taken aback, sweating as he felt the unimaginable strength. The leader roared triumphantly, "Right on target," and a soldier also exclaimed in horror, "What?" The puppet monster tried to maintain its composure after the punch, telling itself that the wound wasn't fatal, and quickly climbed up the tree trunk to regain its position. But just as it was about to counterattack, a large hand suddenly grasped its arm. The leader sneered menacingly. The leader roared in anger, blaming the boy for all the chaos. In a fit of rage, he slammed the puppet monster to the ground as if venting his frustration. But immediately after, the boy controlling it snapped back to attention, his eyes gleaming with murderous intent, preparing for the puppet monster sat leaning against the tree trunk, its body battered but its eyes still alert. The bearded man raised his axe, ready to finish it off, taunting, "Die already." But just then the puppet monster muttered, "Wait, this is death." A sudden surge of murderous intent erupted, causing even the bearded man suddenly felt something was off. His hair stood on end, his eyes wide with terror. He looked down and saw that the axe in his hand had fallen to the ground without him noticing. His body began to tremble, and he let out a scream. "What the hell is this?" As an unseen force, the leader roared in anger, frantically searching for the monster that had suddenly disappeared from his sight. Where did it go? Suddenly, he felt something strange on his chest. Looking down, he froze in shock as he saw a foreign object had pierced through his armor. His mouth hung open, his eyes wide with horror, and before he could understand what was happening, his entire body convulsed in pain. The leader screamed in utmost pain as numerous sharp spikes burst out from his body. Blood splattered everywhere, and his eyes rolled back in horror and despair. He couldn't understand what had just happened. All he could do was let out a final scream full of hatred and helplessness. "Gu." The leader was thrown far away, his body helplessly flying through the air. He was dazed, covered in blood, and his eyes were cloudy, unable to comprehend what was happening. Panicked questions echoed in his mind. Why am I flying like this? What the hell? The boy gasped for breath, sweat streaming down his face, leaning against the tree trunk after the terrifying impact. If he hadn't managed to channel all his enhanced magic at the last second, he would have been killed. In his dazed state, he realized he might have accidentally killed his enemy, as the blow had As his consciousness faded, the boy collapsed to the cold ground, his body numb and his magic depleted. Despite feeling intense pain throughout his body and his spirit being drained, he clung to one thought. I protected the village. It's all over now. But as his vision blurred, he noticed a slight movement. The leader, who seemed to have collapsed, stood up again with his eyes turned white, his body covered in blood but exuding a murderous aura. He muttered, "We'll kill you," and growled like a beast. The boy's eyes widened in horror and he shouted, "No way!" A wave of despair washed over him as the leader still staggered forward, leaving everyone stunned. One person exclaimed, "He's still alive," another said in amazement, "He's really stubborn." Meanwhile, the white-haired young man looked on with concern. "This is bad. I didn't detect him approaching." Could he have been hiding his presence? The situation was beyond expectations, and the leader roared in anger, "I'll kill you, crush every bone in your body." But facing him, the young man coldly drew his sword and whispered, "Yes, that's exactly what will happen." In that moment of the giant's distraction, he thrust the sword through the leader's back, leaving him. The giant coughed up blood, his eyes wide open in a trance as the sword pierced through his chest. He stammered, "You, what are you doing?" "Gah." But in that instant, the eyes of the one who stabbed him widened in horror. The boy watched in shock from afar as he saw the sharp blade being thrust back out from his companion's abdomen. The mysterious figure stood tall, his back silhouetted against the sunset, the sword still dripping with the giant's blood. His eyes were cold and emotionless. The survivors could only stare at him in shock, muttering in panic, "What is this person doing?" A deadly silence enveloped the scene, foreshadowing an even greater.
The giant corpse lay motionless among the grass, its blood still wet. The boy's eyes were wide with terror, his body drenched in sweat. The swordsman turned his back quietly, blocking the light, and gazed straight ahead at the boy and the armored creature kneeling beside him. Without a word, the boy felt a surge of murderous intent. A new danger had just begun. The boy's suspicious gaze followed the mysterious man, who gripped his sword tightly. Surrounding them were the giant's corpse and an eerie silence. The boy wondered, had this man killed his own companions, or was he even more dangerous than the creatures they had faced? The question echoed in his mind. Who is he? The man tilted his head, his cold gaze fixed on the creature wrapped in fabric. He spoke with certainty. "I knew it," as if confirming something he had long suspected. The small creature flinched, a drop of sweat rolled down its cheek, and its confused eyes were visible through the tight wrappings. It couldn't understand what the man was thinking, but it felt a growing sense of danger closing in. The boy watched in alarm as the man took calm, deliberate steps closer. What is he thinking? The man's composure made it impossible for the boy to guess his intentions. The man's eyes flashed with a cold light, as if he had identified his target. Suddenly, he moved swiftly like a gust of wind. The boy was startled. What the? He couldn't react in time, his mind filled with astonishment and growing unease. Seeing the man suddenly turn and flee, the boy was taken aback. Is he running away? His expression changed instantly, a sense of danger flashing in his mind. That way, that's where Double and everyone are. Without hesitation, he gave chase, his eyes filled with determination. I have to stop him. The boy struggled to keep up through the forest, but he felt his breath growing shorter. He's too fast. The man's figure moved decisively ahead, dodging between trees as if he knew the terrain well. A growing sense of worry filled the boy's heart. Is he used to running in the forest? I'll never catch up. The boy clutched his head, gasping for breath. My head hurts, and my magic is running out. But then he clenched his fists, and his eyes blazed with determination. But if it's just for a moment. A surge of power erupted around him, and his body transformed into a streak of light, racing through the forest without giving up. The boy reached his top speed, becoming a brilliant flash of light that cut through the forest, rapidly closing the distance to the black-armored figure. Ahead, the man turned back, his eyes widening in surprise as he saw the boy catch up so quickly. The boy launched a powerful punch, his fist flying toward his opponent like lightning. The man spun around, his eyes widening in shock as he struggled to react to the sudden attack. The punch created a massive explosion in the forest, sending dirt and dust flying everywhere. The bandaged boy looked up, watching as the man stumbled back, his feet planted firmly on the ground to maintain his balance. The boy thought to himself, that guy. A mix of surprise and caution as the man had managed to avoid the full force of the attack. The boy's eyes widened in astonishment. He reacted that fast. The attack had been at the boy's maximum speed. Meanwhile, the man calmly sat down, rubbing his shoulder as if nothing had happened. I hit him. So why is he so calm? A growing sense of unease began to creep into the boy's heart. The man stepped forward, a look of interest on his face, and bowed slightly, saying, Impressive. Then he looked directly at the fabric-wrapped creature and asked in a calm but suggestive tone, You understand human language, don't you? The creature fell silent, its eyes flashing with caution. The man gazed at the small creature with a cold expression, saying slowly, It seems you have intelligence. What a pity. He sighed, turned around, and pulled out a cross-shaped amulet, holding it high. Even in ITS Chinese letter form, it must be destroyed. Destroy this amulet. The creature's eyes widened, its heart filled with anxiety. It's a shame. The man's voice was as cold as a death sentence. The boy looked at the object in the man's hand with growing unease. What is that? It looks strange. The man's words echoed in his mind, confusing and frightening him. Does he still think I'm a monster? The headache made his thoughts jumbled. I want to go home. His eyes drooped. Should I use my remaining magic to defeat him? No, my head can't think anymore. The boy gritted his teeth, his eyes a mix of despair and confusion. The boy stood there, his body shaking in waves, his eyes brimming with tears, and the light in his pupils reflecting the image of a tree from his hometown. I just want to go back. His mind was filled with the longing to return to the familiar village, where children's laughter and warmth filled the air. I can't take it anymore. Just let me go back, watch the kids being mischievous, and sigh while thinking, here we go again. Those simple, ordinary thoughts now became a luxury in the cold and dangerous scene before him. Having witnessed the brutal and bloody scene just now, the boy's small legs trembled violently. It's just magic. I just tried my best, but it still looks terrifying. Despite using powerful magic that felt like cheating, he didn't feel at peace. A fragment of memory flashed by lonely adults, bloodthirsty individuals, cheering crowds fighting, all reflecting a world he didn't want to be a part of. If this is just a dream, please let it end soon. Amidst helplessness and horror, his only wish was to live in a world where he didn't have to kill to survive. The mysterious figure turned his back and left after declaring coldly, The task is complete. I don't have time to deal with you. The bandaged boy watched him go, his mind in disarray. Will he come back? Should I have let him go? A series of questions arose in his mind, but there were no clear answers. The man's hands slightly raised, as if signaling the end, while the boy sat silently under the tree thinking, I don't know what's right anymore. A heavy silence enveloped the scene after the tense encounter. The bandaged boy looked in confusion at the red, glittering stones that had just fallen. What's this? What did he just throw? The sparkling light emitted from the small crystals surprised him. Red, is this a magic crystal? He recognized it and unconsciously reached out to touch it. Magical energy surrounded him, like an unexpected gift from his former opponent. A violent explosion suddenly erupted in the forest, creating a giant column of white smoke that engulfed everything around. The bandaged boy was shocked, thrown backward, and let out a groan. Gah! The magical energy he had just absorbed hadn't stabilized yet, causing him to lose control of the surging power. The scenery became blurred in the thick smoke and the tremendous pressure that was released. Fire raged through the forest, burning trees and throwing the bandaged boy into chaos. He cried out in pain, Too hot, it's burning. While trying to locate his opponent amidst the sea of flames, he discovered that the man had vanished. He's not here. Damn it. He gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with panic and anger upon realizing he had been tricked and was now trapped in the fire caused by his own magic. The bandaged boy finally escaped the sea of flames, gasping for breath due to exhaustion. Meanwhile, his enemy had quickly changed tactics and disappeared. Looking at the smoldering fire behind him, he panted heavily, his eyes filled with resentment. His emotions were suppressed, his body tired, but his eyes remained determined, revealing his resolve to continue the pursuit. The boy looked at the flames erupting before him, his heart filled with horror. What has he done? Knowing that if the fire spread, the entire forest and village would be in danger, he clenched his fists, determined to extinguish it. He placed his hand on his chest, trying to focus despite his exhaustion, whispering, Water magic. I must use water magic. A weak stream of energy began to gather at his fingertips as he mustered all his willpower for one final spell. The boy tried to cast water magic, but could only produce a weak stream that resembled a useless magic trick. He looked on in despair as the small stream of water dissipated before it could even touch the flames. It won't work. With the little magic I have left, I can't extinguish this fire. He collapsed to the ground, his helpless eyes following the fire as it continued to spread. The boy watched the fire spreading, his mind focused on a single thought. I have to evacuate Mr. Double and the others. His eyes scanned the forest, catching sight of the old man and a few children looking toward the fire in panic. What's going on? Mr. Double muttered, filled with confusion. The boy gritted his teeth, his hand clenched, his eyes determined. Tusk! There was no more time to hesitate. The boy hid behind a tree trunk, his anxious eyes following Mr. Double and the children as they evacuated. Could it be the bandits? He wondered, but before he could think further, he shouted, Mr. Double. The old man turned around, saying sternly, We can't just stand by and do nothing. Then he raised his hand to stop the children. Fall back. The reflection of the flames in the boy's eyes was filled with confusion and helplessness. Mr. Double raised his hands, creating a fireball that hovered in his palm, his eyes full of doubt. What's going on here? Even if the wound has healed, the strength shouldn't have recovered yet. The fireball burst into light, breaking into many small pieces like shooting stars, flying up into the sky. The scorched trees began to stir under the magical light that fell like rain. Mr. Double clasped his hands together, chanting a spell amidst the glow surrounding his body, his face stern and highly focused. The remaining flames from the wildfire gradually extinguished. The once raging flames now slowly disappeared, restoring peace to the forest. The two boys behind him exclaimed in amazement. Amazing! The young boy hiding behind a tree was astonished, thinking, Magic can be used like this too. His eyes followed the dying flames, filled with indescribable emotions. A light drizzle began to fall, and Mr. Double looked up at the sky, saying calmly, After this, the rain will put out the fire. One of the boys behind him called out, Mr. Double. He nodded slightly, telling the group to return without being detected by the robbers. He also warned, The matter with the monster isn't over yet, you two must be careful. The boy hiding behind the tree clenched his fists, feeling a surge of emotion, his eyes welling up. He's safe now. What a relief. A heavy downpour poured down on the empty forest. The boy staggered through the rain, breathing heavily. His body was exhausted, but his face showed a sense of relief. Leaning against a tree trunk, he tilted his face to catch the rain and suddenly chuckled softly, not because he was happy, but as if he had shed a burden. He rested his head on his arm, letting the rainwater mix with his tears. The boy, exhausted, lay on his side on the wet ground, his tired eyes gazing towards the distant village. "I've done everything I could," he whispered, his trembling hand raised to cast one final spell. A faint magical glow flickered from his fingertips like a dying spark, then vanished. With his magic depleted, he struggled to crawl forward, his mind focused on reaching the village. The girl stood under a tree outside the village gate, silently gazing into the distance. Her eyes changed as she noticed something unusual. The boy hid behind a wooden fence, quietly observing in silence, his breathing rapid due to fatigue and anxiety. Ren weakly clung to the top of the wooden fence amidst the heavy rain, calling out to Turner in despair. But his hands slipped off the edge, causing him to fall. Turner, from below, called out in alarm and rushed to him with a worried expression. She opened her arms, ready to catch Ren, despite knowing she would be hit hard. The boy sat on the ground in the rain, smiling weakly. The girl approached him, realizing he had found a way to sneak into the area near Mr. Double's house, a place with few visitors. He acknowledged this, and she gently placed her hand on his shoulder, worried and softly reminding, "This place is collapsing." Turner smiled weakly in the rain, admitting that the girl's previous words were correct and praising her as amazing. The girl looked at him silently, her heart tangled with many things she wanted to say, but didn't know where to start. At the same moment, another girl appeared, her eyes curious as she saw Turner looking worn out and exhausted. Ren suddenly vomited blood and collapsed into the girl's arms beside him. She panicked, supporting him, her eyes full of worry. Amidst the continuous rain, he weakly called out her name, as if wanting to say his last words. She held him tightly, whispering desperately, "It's all over." In the house, Turner was gesturing, as if reenacting something, surrounded by three friends who watched and laughed cheerfully. The atmosphere was relaxed and bright. A beaten soldier lay sprawled on the ground, one eye swollen shut. He groaned and looked ahead, where three armored knights were riding towards him, their eyes filled with caution and fear. A group of knights arrived at the massacre scene, finding a lone survivor groaning in pain. The knights were shocked to see dozens of bodies scattered across the empty field. One of them whispered, "What happened here?" The scene shifted to early morning, with clear skies. Ren walked alone in the village, his footsteps quiet. The narrative text read, 2 weeks have passed since the incident. He walked past villagers going about their daily activities. Turner woke up in bed, being cared for by the villagers. Ren and Turner were safely hidden thanks to Turner's clever cover, which prevented the village elders from suspecting anything. Ren was grateful to Turner for handling everything discreetly. A group of soldiers was sent by the Lord to investigate the murder of the real explorers. They found that the bandits had been almost entirely wiped out, with the leader dead. This made it easy to capture the remaining bandits. The commander expressed surprise and curiosity about what had really happened. Turner discussed what had happened with a young man who suggested that the giant monster in the forest might have been the one to eliminate the bandits. It had also healed the wounds of 2 children. Although he said it was just speculation, the implication was clear. Turner continued, saying that the village might have been saved by the monster. 2 soldiers listened behind them, saying nothing, but exchanging surprised and skeptical glances. A man burst out laughing upon hearing the story about the monster protecting the village, clearly disbelieving. The knight apologized for the strange information, while the village elder looked hesitant and uncertain, merely nodding awkwardly. Another knight commented that he had never heard of a monster behaving like that. The discussion continued, with the group deciding that their mission was complete. One of them mentioned that more explorers would come to investigate further. Mr. Double was welcomed back for surviving. Finally, the narrator revealed that after searching the forest, they never found the monster again. Ren smiled slightly under the bright sky, as if reassuring himself that everything is fine because of me. He imagined a happy ending, but then reminded himself that reality wasn't that simple. There were still many unexplained things, even though he was still present in the village. Ren was still haunted by the man with a scar on his face, the only person he still thought about. The world still held many mysteries that he didn't know. He recalled when that man faced the monstrous creature in the forest and said something incomprehensible. Ren didn't understand it then, but the memory stuck with him. Anne wore a wooden mask and suddenly scared Ren, shouting, "Bah!" Ren reacted calmly, saying "Wah," and I was surprised. Their friends teased Anne that Ren wasn't easily startled, while Ren simply asked, "What's that mask?" Anne held up the mask and declared it was the forest monster. She said it had protected the village from bandits, and after the incident, the whole village talked about it. However, another girl expressed disbelief, thinking it was just baseless rumor. Anne still happily confirmed she would wear the mask during the festival. The group of children were discussing the upcoming festival. One of them said, "The harvest festival is coming soon," and the kids were all excited, especially the girl wearing the wooden mask. She raised her hand and cheered, "I'm really looking forward to it." The villagers were also busy preparing for the festival. Although the mask showed no expression, the atmosphere was lively and joyful. The harvest festival officially began. The village elder gave an opening speech, proudly stating that no one had gone missing that year and everyone was safe. The children standing below found the speech too long and boring. Ren looked ahead, slightly distracted, thinking, a long and tedious speech. The elder lit a fire using magic, leading the ceremony with a blessing for a bountiful harvest the following year. In the crowd, Ren held a small child in his arms, gazing gently ahead, blending into the sacred atmosphere of the ceremony. Flames rose high from the pile of wood in the center of the village, illuminating the night sky. The villagers gathered, looking up in reverence. In front, a group of children, including Ren, Anne, and others, smiled radiantly, enjoying the lively moment of the harvest festival. The villagers were all having fun, drinking, dancing, and cooking. Meanwhile, Ren stood alone, quietly leaving the crowd, seemingly preoccupied with something. Ren ran through the grassland at night and stopped when he saw a girl standing under a tree. She wore a floral wreath, her eyes filled with emotion as she softly called out, "Turner." Under the tree during the festival night, Turner found the girl standing and waiting. He was surprised to ask why she was here, and she replied that she had been waiting for him. When Turner said he wanted to thank her, the girl interrupted him, gently expressing her gratitude first, thanking Turner for keeping her secret and telling her the truth about Mr. Double. Turner was somewhat surprised by her sincerity. Under the dim moonlight, the two stood with their backs against the large tree. The girl, wearing a floral crown, bowed her head and expressed her deep gratitude. She thanked Turner for saving the village, for helping Mr. Double, and for trusting her, all from the bottom of her heart. Turner listened silently, not needing to respond, as his presence at that moment was already the answer. Turner smiled awkwardly after hearing the unexpected words of thanks, making the girl feel embarrassed and wonder if he had eaten something strange. But instead of denying it, Turner suddenly took her hand and pulled her away, causing her to blush and be startled, while he secretly smiled with delight. It was a gentle but emotionally charged moment between the two. Under the bright moonlight, Ren suddenly pulled Turner's hand and ran, her serious expression causing Turner to panic and call out her name. Petals flew with the wind, and their clasped hands stood out in the romantic yet unsettling scene, as if signaling that a new turning point was approaching. Turner turned back and smiled gently at Ren, his cheeks flushed, and the shimmering light reflected in her eyes. In the distance, the festival flames blazed brightly, and the entire village was holding hands and dancing around the bonfire. Leading the way were the two small figures, Ren and Turner, walking together toward the light and joy, like a warm conclusion after many storms. The festival atmosphere was filled with laughter and joy. People ate, danced, and raised their cups in celebration together. Turner and Ren held hands and twirled in the dance, surrounded by friends blending into the circle. Petals fell gently in the vibrant sunset glow, and Ren's face shone with happiness, a perfect ending to an emotional chapter. While everyone was celebrating, Ted came to invite Charnos to eat grilled meat, but he declined. Ted was puzzled, and Charnos responded seriously that they both needed to become stronger. Sword practice alone was not enough. Ted enthusiastically said he practiced swordsmanship every day, but Charnos surprised him with cryptic words, prompting Ted to ask, "What do you mean?" The atmosphere began to shift from joyful to contemplative. While the adults were drunk and asleep after the party, Mr. Double, a former adventurer, quietly took care of the children. Charnos, standing beside him, confided in Ted that he wanted to become Mr. Double's apprentice. Ted was surprised and asked back as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard, creating a moment that revealed the new path Charnos was heading toward. With a determined and spirited gaze, Charnos raised his hand and declared, "We'll go ask him together." Meanwhile, Ted looked bewildered and seemed puzzled by his friend, confidence, wondering if he was trying to appear cool. The scene ended with a light-hearted and humorous atmosphere following the serious declaration.